My children now.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
You lied and I died.
I feel a little yeah. They're coming to get you, Barbara.
How's it hanging, Phil?
From the prime time, bitch.
Come and get it!
So either put the gun down now, or kiss your ass goodbye.
Let's get this party started.
I agree, Dana. Let's get this sausage party started. So, welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by three of not only the coolest dudes I know, but three great influencers that do a lot on their channels that inspire me very much. We have Dylan and Luke. How you guys doing today?
Great. Can't be too bad when I'm hanging out with the great Ken Sledge.
Yeah.
Hell
Your
yeah.
check's in the
Always a
mail,
party.
buddy. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
We also have a huge influence of mine that's become a very good friend. We have Kainan Becker of the amazing Ghost Pirate Entertainment. Kainan, how you doing, man?
Good. Very good.
Dude, it's amazing whenever I get to work with you guys because, like I said, not only am I friends of your guys', but I'm a huge fan of everything that you guys do. And if you're in the chat right now and you have not subscribed or followed these guys on social media, all those links are down in the description. So please make sure you're checking them out. They do an amazing job. But first off, Dylan and Luke, can you tell us a little bit about Splattercast and what you guys do over there?
Yeah, I mean, Splattercast has just been kind of an ever-evolving thing. You know, we talk horror. That's what we do. It's our primary goal, just like everybody here. But we really recently, within probably the last 9 months or so, started to do a lot more of these list videos, trying to find like interesting topics to kind of cover more than just your stereotypical kind of expected horror stuff. You know, if we find a topic that we really want to talk about, we're looking for deeper cuts. We're looking for indie picks. We're looking for stuff that doesn't get talked about much. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of that. We have our own like live stream podcast that we do with Evan from Rockland Graves and our boy Alex from Beyond the Void Horror podcast called Beyond the Splatter Graves. Do that every other week on Mondays. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, we got a lot of great stuff cooking, as well as new and old horror movie reviews. So Luke, anything you want to add to that?
Check it out, man.
No, I mean, I think Dylan covered it pretty much. I mean, like he said, ever evolving. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we're always bouncing around. So be on the look at that for probably maybe in the next couple of months. We'll see after we get through all these lists.
Well, they did just cover The Dark and the Wicked. So
Yes, we did.
Oh, that's a great one.
yeah, I'll say you
So
guys
you
know
guys
what that
are-
movie means to me. So
You guys are both on this. You guys are both on the same channel.
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
Nice.
We do it together. We're a couple.
Very cool.
We're good. We're a pair.
then,
A twisted
we have
pair.
Ghost
There you
Pirate
go.
Entertainment. You know, Kainan, a guy that's all over in the horror world. If you watch any type of horror YouTube, you've probably seen Ghost Pirate out there. So for the people that haven't seen you, Kainan, can you tell people a little bit about what you do?
Well, I have really kind of just focused my energies, especially the last like 6 months, on just my recommendation list. Like that's because it's so hard to keep up with like all the movie like individual reviews, because there's so many people that do that right now. Like,
Right.
so it's like I finally was like, man, I don't want to be a part of the whole rat race, like going to see a new movie and then having to come home and immediately make a review and get it out. And there's this stressful feeling of like trying to hustle to get it out, to get in that first
That
wave.
is
So
a big one.
and everybody kind of knows me for my recommendation list anyway. Like I think of it as like a horror movie TV guide, you know,
Mhm.
and I sprinkle in a little bit of thriller, sci-fi-ish stuff too. So it's like for people that are not like maybe, you know, die hard hardcore horror, you know, it's kind of a wide. I try to hit everything in kind of the real wide umbrella of what horror is. So.
Well, and what I love is when you do stuff on like the top 10 things to watch on Tubi, you know, stuff like that. Like those are great lists because these are movies that people don't have to go out and buy. They don't have to rent on VOD.
Exactly.
they could just go and watch it and, you know, check out your recommendations right away. And I think that you've kind of championed that type of niche audience. And I think it's amazing.
Well, and that's
I
where
love
there's
watching
so many of the little indie movies that nobody knows about too.
Right.
You know, like I've discovered so many cool movies that just, you know, like The Harbinger in 2023 is like the best pandemic movie that like nobody knew about. And like now
you don't
normal
die,
people are,
you just won't exist.
yeah, it's so good. It's so good, so
Dude,
creepy.
wasn't
Like
it?
it's one of the few that took the whole pandemic thing and didn't make it politicized and didn't like, you know what I mean? And like actually found an interesting way of kind of like dealing with the subject of what we were all dealing with kind of thing, but put it in a horror spin. It's like, it's so good. And then like
And it wasn't
this week,
pandering about it either.
yeah, exactly. And so well acted. And then this week, I found a movie called The Eyes of My Mother, which
Oh,
I had
yeah.
a few people tell me about. Like, geez, man, what a dark movie. But it's like just so cool to discover these like hidden gem kind of movies constantly, and it's so exciting when I put out I try to get at least one or two every week and every list. It's not, you know, it's hard to do because it's not like you could just snap your fingers and you have another hidden gem that nobody's seen, but
Right.
it's kind of my goal with every video. Because
Well, like I said, guys, the best thing to do is
as
just
like people that talk about horror, the biggest thing we can do is like help bring awareness to the artist out there, you know, not to big Hollywood, you know, not even to Blumhouse, but like to the real horror, the real creators, the real artists, you know, that a lot of people that know about that are making amazing stuff. So,
well, and
Yeah,
they're
I only
making
like
movies
Blumhouse
because
horror movies. They're my
they're
the only
making
horror movies I
movies
watch.
because they love it. They're not doing it to make money. They're doing it
Exactly.
because it's a passion project. And that's always
Yep.
been my favorite
Well,
type
and-
of horror too.
and if we can expose them a little bit and help them make a little bit of money so they can survive, like, because I know it's just as being an artist before, you know, YouTube, like my whole life, it's starting artists is a real thing, man. Like, you know, you like a lot of people think of it as like a choice, but it's like get deep enough in and it's like, this is what you know, like, this is what you do. You're not going to be like, I've been playing music my whole life. Now I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to go be a lawyer.
Mm.
You know, it's like, like if you're a director, a filmmaker, like you're in, man. Like my buddy TJ who does the podcast with me, he has his own channel and whatnot too, but we do a podcast every week. But like he's a filmmaker and it's what he is, man. Like once you're cross 30, like it's you are what you are. It's you know, you can't really just be like, okay, I'm gonna change my mind now and go, you know, to 8 years of school to become a doctor.
That's a very hard thing to do. It's just be like, yeah, I'm done now.
That's like the stepping stone of this channel for Luke and I. Hopefully, one day is at least to get a couple of our scripts made, because that's what we want to do. Is we want to be filmmakers. So,
well, that's the best thing about being a
engage in the
content
community.
creator is how many people you meet and like how much you learn, like vicariously. Like when I started this, man, I didn't know any directors or producers or actors, and like now I know a lot. I know a lot of them. Like it's still a weird feeling when I cover a movie. You know, like I remember when I covered the movie Feed Me, and everybody, the director, the writer, everybody reached out to me and they were just like, dude, you're the man. And like I've made friends now, especially with like the cast and stuff. And it's just like you know, like that's an amazing movie. Like I didn't think of it as like this nothing little indie movie. I'm like, this is just an amazing movie. But for them, they were just like, dude, any exposure, like nobody, especially when I covered it, like very few. I think you did too, right, Ken?
Yep.
I feel like there was almost nobody that covered it though. And I remember me and you talking about it and like, you know,
such a fun movie, man. I love
Yeah.
Adam and Richard. They're so good.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. Like we've had it happen a lot with people when it's like we've reached out for screeners and things like that for stuff we're really interested in, where it's like, yeah, they watch it and they send it back to us. But like one of the ones that was really fun, recent memory that I can think of was we had the director and writer of a movie that was just this little independent thing from like back in July called Thine Ears Shall Bleed, right, Luke?
Yep.
That's what it was
That's
called.
what it was.
Yeah.
I have that in my queue. I still haven't seen it yet. I heard it's good though.
We loved it. I mean, we're not big religious horror fans. We think that genre is just kind of, that subgenre has kind of been like done to death as far as just like a lot of generic takes. This is one of those ones where it's just like it revitalizes that genre for me in so many ways. It's like, what a cool, awesome idea for
Yeah.
just like a religious style horror film. Like, it gets me so excited for more stuff like this. And the director literally just like the day we posted our review, he commented on our video and stuff and was just like, "Oh, thanks for covering this and everything." It's like, oh,
It's
that's
such
awesome.
a cool feeling, man.
It is great, especially
a
when
cool
it's like
feeling.
it's something tiny like that, and then you absolutely love it, and you're just sitting there like, I know this is like, and more people need to see this, and then they get to see a genuine reaction. It feels great all around.
What sucks,
we just had
though,
that with
is-
the Moore, man. Like the actor
Yeah,
that
I
played
know
the
you
dad.
guys are big on that one. I need to see that one still.
Dude, the actor that played the dad commented on our video and was like, "Hey, don't ask me about the end either, because I have no fucking idea what happened." And I was like, "Dude, that's so fucking rad that he actually commented on it."
Trying to think, what was there? There's another movie that had an ending like that you're just like, what? Like, what does that mean? But no, like there's the bad side of all of that is like I constantly, like daily, get emails and texts from people being like, "Dude, will you review my movie? Will you cover my movie?" And it sucks because like they don't understand. Like, I'm not gonna bring any exposure to you, man. Like if I do a review, like nobody's gonna see it because YouTube is not gonna promote that review. Like, you know, so the only way is if you do it on the other end where it's I come across it, I cover it, like that kind of thing, and include it in a list or whatever. But like, it's not like I can just go like that and 60,000 people are gonna for sure watch a review of your movie, or I would like. But then on the same hand, I can't cover everything. It's
Right,
like,
dude. It's
you know?
we also have, you know, we also live. You know what I mean? Like,
we're here to entertain and whatnot too. So it's like if all we're doing is covering everybody's little indie movie, for one, you guys know a lot of them aren't very good. And it's like I told the director of Werewolf, like we kind of got into it on Twitter a little bit because he was, I don't know, got kind of irritated or bothered by something I had said on there or whatever. But like I told him, I'm like, I'm not going to cover your movie because if I don't have anything good to say, it's not going to help your movie. It's only going to hurt your movie.
Right.
And like that movie I thought was just not good. Like you know, it had a lot of resources, cast, like all this stuff. And it's like the werewolves looked awesome. You know, like there were some fun action scenes, but the story was atrocious. And that's why I try to tell him, I'm like, I'm not blaming you as a director. I'm blaming your writer. You can tell him that to his face. Like, there's just the dialogue is atrocious and the story goes nowhere. There's a sunscreen kind of thing that they spray on. Like, what do they call it? Wolf spray or moon spray or whatever. Moon screen. It's just like, come on. Like, it's just like, and it's one thing if it was a movie that knew it was being cheesy and leaned into that, but it's not.
Sure.
And it's like the problem I have with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, those movies as well, is that they take it too damn serious. It's not that they're poorly made. It's just be aware of what you are. Like if you're campy and cheesy, like lean a little bit into that. Have fun with it. Like have a little bit of a smile. But when you take it incredibly serious, and yet it's, you know, not that well put together, it's like,
yeah. Well, especially like you said, like with Pooh, you know, we're watching Winnie the Pooh as a slasher.
Yeah,
have some fun with this.
I know.
You know
I still don't understand that. Like the second one is way better. Like it's production wise, you know, everything about it is incredibly like improved. It's actually a really well made movie. But once again, still my same issue with it. I'm like, I don't care how well made it is. Winnie the Pooh is still running around, not drowning people with honey. You know, like he needs to be having a swarm of bees stinging people to death, like drowning people with this thing of honey, putting it over their heads. Like, you know, you can still be gory. Yeah, exactly. You could still be, dude, you can still do everything the same, but just have a little bit of that here and there. And if you laugh a little bit here and there, that movie is 1,000 times better.
100%. I could not agree more. Ryan put their links in the chat as well. So their links are in the chat and in the description. Sean says vampire is probably my favorite subgenre of horror. Obviously 80 movies, Fright Night, Near Dark, Lost Boys. Favorite vampires, John Carpenter's Vampires. Okay. What's up, Nathan? I enjoy Twilight, the first one. It's not for me, but I'm glad you like it. I'm sorry that you guys have the flu, Connor, but stoked for your cousin. Hope everything's good with the baby, man. Congratulations
right now.
Paul Draw, hello, blah blah blah. I do not say blah blah blah. What's up, Amanda? Nice to see you. I'm going to tell you guys right now, because I'm seeing everybody talk about it in the chat. What's up, Gory? My list is going to be extremely vanilla. Vampires is not my thing, but I just wanted to have fun. What's up, Necro? Hello, Jeannie. What's up, King Matthew? Charles is here. What's up, buddy?
Now what's
In
going
my
on
life,
with
but we'll
YouTube?
probably have to add more to my list.
Because we should have way more people over here. What's going on?
This happens every time, man. Like it does this, and then when I go to the final, it'll be like you had this amount of people, and I'm like, when? Like when did that happen?
Yeah, but they're
Tubi has
not
killer
like I'm
sofa.
trying to share it on my like I don't know what's going on, but like the community page is down, I think.
Oh,
Dude,
thank you, Dark Room.
Also, like, yeah, because my YouTube studio has been doing the same thing. Like my YouTube studio just won't even load for anymore at times.
Yeah, and then there was the whole
reinstalling
thing where
it.
it wouldn't show how much your current like
Right.
like mine was doing it too. Like other people said they're fine. Like I don't know what's going on, but like I'm looking at my page right now and it won't show my community page, which means the community thing that I just shared, nobody else is seeing it.
Right.
Because like
And I'm
normally
telling
when I
you.
do this, we get at least an extra like 20 or so pretty quick when I share it. But like
It gets really frustrating. Tubi also has Bride of the Killer Pinata, super sexy henchman in that movie. Just wanted to say, may or may not get his wiener ripped off, but what's up there, Felina? Nice to see you.
You know, it would be a fun list is the 10 goriest penile ripping movies or whatever.
If people don't
like,
have me on there, I'm gonna be pissed.
But I'm just saying, because like there is quite a few. Like Outwaters
Teeth.
is crazy.
Yeah.
One. Teeth, Terrifier 3 or 2.
Outwaters,
Terrifier 2.
Outwaters just comes out of
Maxine
nowhere,
has
bro.
the
Just starts
stomp.
cutting his own dick off.
Yep.
It's like,
to me
oh my
that
God.
made the dude. That to me that made the movie.
We love
like-
that movie. That
I
movie
wonder what
revitalized
it
our
just
love for
needed to
found
get-
footage.
You just needed to get punched in the face, like right at the end of that, like for it to all kind of like really close in, you know.
Bone
I
Tomahawk.
know I've
would be
gotten
up there,
so
too.
much shit.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Bone Tomahawk's up there for like a lot of some of the most horrible like the pregnant woman. Like oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that imagery is pretty rough. That's almost like, and that comes after the dude gets sliced in half. Like honestly, it's like between that and Art the Clown, it's like those two films are going head to head for.
But
best,
Art the Clown
cut
at
the-
least is not serious.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
You
It's
know,
goofy.
the first one is a little more serious, but even still, like I was laughing. Like those
Right.
movies always make me laugh, at least a chuckle. The first one wasn't super funny, but you're at least you could feel the campiness of it. Like, you know, Art's still dancing and doing this stuff, even when he's cutting a woman in half. So, whereas like Bone Tomahawk is like deadly serious. Like you are locked in when that stuff goes down, and like.
And it's
all right.
gnarly.
Yeah, when his deputy's just getting, it's rough. I did want to say, I agree with you, Jigsaw Killer. Hatchet belongs up there with gory splitting kills as well. There's a couple of those in there that are.
Yep.
Are
But that's what
pretty
I love about
extreme.
Hatchet too. Is the same thing where it's just it doesn't take it serious. It's having fun with the whole,
Right.
Mhm.
you know, with the whole thing.
But
I love that about the Hatchet movies.
when it comes to vampire films, I'm going to start us off at number 10. And again, I know a lot of people didn't like this movie. I thought this movie was great because of how over the top the CGI and the acting was. I'm going with Renfield.
Dude, I loved that movie.
Dude,
I loved it.
so did
it
I,
almost
man. Like-
made like I didn't do an honorable mentions, but it would have been my honorable mention. Like it almost made my list. Like I love that
Dude.
movie, and I hate that it's like so overlooked.
Me too, because like I went into that movie with the lowest of expectations, and I had so much fun throughout the whole movie. Like, and like I said, a lot of people are like, oh well, the CGI. I'm like, dude, they did the CGI perfect in this movie.
Yep.
They made it so over the top and ridiculous.
And
it
people are
performed.
always surprised when you're like I swear to God nowadays, it happens all the time where people are like, blah, 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 CGI, like Alien Romulus. You know how many people were like that final creature at the end, like CGI? I'm like, it was all practical, idiot.
It was all practical, man.
Like you guys don't understand. Like practical is at a high, just like CGI has gotten better over the years. So is practical. Like
Right.
there's so much stuff you see now where even if it isn't 100% practical, like there might be a little CGI, but it's still for the most part practically done. Like a lot of stuff is.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild to
Either
think
way,
that
it fit the tone of that movie perfect. Like the
It's
gore, like
100%.
all of it.
wild to think that creature too at the end of that is like primarily just a dude in makeup. Like it's not just a puppet. It's like they also have a guy who's that tall who's just got like really skinny long arms.
Same
it's just
as the first Alien. Like that guy's in the first Alien. He was a basketball player, like same kind of thing, right around the same height. Like, but yeah, that dude especially because he's so thin. When you see
his neck too, like because he's actually got that. Like his neck is so much longer because he's so tall, and it works. There's like they didn't have to do any like enhancing to that because that was like one of the more unnatural pieces.
Like everybody tripping out on the trailer for 28 years later with that corpse looking thing, and everybody thought it was Cillian Murphy or whatever. But people are still, I've heard a bunch of people being like, oh, CGI, blah, blah. That's a dude. Like like if you see the pictures, because like they released the pictures and stuff, and like, it's this guy because they don't want people thinking it was Cillian Murphy. You see pictures of the actual guy, you're like, just some makeup on him. Like he's not even like they didn't do anything to make him look thinner. Like he's really that's him. Just dead looking.
Well, I'm pretty sure they met him at like a
grocery store.
They met him at the grocery store.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, you want to be in our movie?" And he was just like, "Yeah, okay,
sure thing."
Like you're perfect for this. And I don't think he's got a very big role, but still, I love that. I love that.
I gotta say, just going back to Ken's pick though, real quick, was we had a lot of fun with Renfield. I know Luke was a lot hotter on that movie than I was. I think like for me, I'm down with it, but I think like just I always kind of have a hard time when I can do horror comedy with like a little bit of action, but it's like for me, it's like they're trying to do too many things at once in some parts of that movie. But like really at the end of the day, I mean, Nicolas Cage as Dracula is one of the best performances of Dracula, just hands down. I love him. The dude could really do anything.
Born for that role.
But his voice, and I will always remember when they open the blinds or something. Is it the blinds or whatever towards the beginning when he burns Nicolas Cage? And he's just a crispy puppet. I'm just like, this is the best. I love that stuff.
Well, that's what I love about that movie because it is so aware from minute one on what it is.
It's trying to have fun.
It is a comedy first, then action, then horror. So it's one of those movies like I try to explain to people. It's like it is horror, but it's horror more in the aesthetic. You know what I mean? And like the subject matter, but the tone of it is not horror. Like that's not a movie that's going to scare you. It's a movie that's going to make you laugh and have a good time and be entertained. So it's like, that's what I think more people need to do is like kind of dissect a movie and be like, cause you can tell what you like and don't like a lot more. And you can pick movies better when you know more of the things you do. And like a lot of people are not big on comedy horror movies, but it's like, but they still like certain ones. Like they'll be like, I still love Evil Dead. And it's like, dissect it. What is it about it? It's like with Renfield, it's like, it's mostly comedy. So a lot of people if you don't like it, cause you're like going into thinking you're going to watch a horror movie and you're not, you're seeing a comedy with horror aesthetic. So it's like, I think a lot of people, if they were to go into it thinking I'm going in to see a comedy with a horror aesthetic, I think they would have enjoyed it more and embraced it more.
It would have been definitely more well received.
Exactly. I just hate how bad all these like classic figure movies are doing. Like they're just bombing, because you had Renfield do horrible. You had Last Voyage of the Demeter do horrible. You had Wolfman just do horrible. Like all these movies, it's like we're never going to get that universal universe. And it sucks because it's like, I mean, luckily, thank God we just had Nosferatu, kind of save that a little bit. But it's like, it just makes no sense to me. I mean, I guess Robert Eggers is going to basically have to make his own universe.
Right. He's the only one. Werewolf.
Exactly. He's the only one that can get it right.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I feel like at this point, it's just going to end up going to like the auteur market where instead of getting, like the pure universal monsters, the Wolfman anymore, we're probably going to see more things like Robert Eggers or people like him just doing a werewolf movie that is similar to that, or like he did with Nosferatu, where it's just.
But that's what we've always, the rip-off always had. It just it's frustrating that we can't get like a group of people with Universal to like, you know what I mean? Like just go get good filmmakers. Quit.
Right.
Like I don't know. I get so frustrated with these studios, and it sucks because they're the ones that own all these properties.
I wanted to like Wolfman so much more than I did. So much more than I did. But what about you, Dylan?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense that it's not a better movie. Like none. Everything
We-
about it should make it a better movie.
We loved it actually. So yeah, that's.
I just think
that's
it's
where we sit.
horribly written.
I think
it's
it's.
horribly written.
It was just boring to me. Like
I was
my
good
problem.
with the transformation. Like I actually did really like the
sight?
looking through the eyes. Yeah, I thought that was a cool
Yes.
idea. Like aesthetically, it's gorgeous. And I think what's his name? I'm spacing on his name right now, but the lead actor, I thought he did incredible at being the Wolfman. And I love how it had a slow transformation. For me, the biggest thing, and I think it is for a lot of people I think just don't even really recognize it. But I think the biggest issue is chemistry. I think the wife never feels like his wife at all and doesn't really feel like the little girl's mother. So you never really feel like attached to these characters. And so you're like really, like at the end of this big climactic moment, you're just like, yeah, whatever. And you can see it coming from 1,000 miles away. That's also part of it. Like there's no way. And I get it. That's one of the problems with a lot of these stories. There's no way to like, if you're remaking it, a classic story that everybody knows,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's a problem with Nosferatu a lot of people had, but.
Well, I would love to debate the Wolfman for a while. I would love to go, but I do want to give myself
we got to get
back on task because we're only at number 10 for the second person now. But I'm going to go with Blood from 2022.
Great.
Has everybody seen this one? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Because this is Luke. Did we ever talk about this?
No, we haven't.
Okay, I know we were really caught up at the time I saw this, and I think I have literally meant to tell you about it because I thought this was a really cool, different take for a vampire movie. I kind of hate that I have to mention it here because, as you're watching the film, it kind of takes some time to realize that it's a vampire thing.
Yep, it's kind of one of those movies that spoils it if you just even tell people what the premise is.
Exactly. I think
the problem with Companion that we just saw with Companion is like once you let the cat out of the bag, just to basically give in to people. It was that what happened with Abigail. Like, how do you? It was like there's this huge debate. It's like, how do you promote a movie? How do you talk about a movie at all when anything basically gives away the crux, the thing that it would be so cool to see? And like Blood is the same thing. Like, luckily, I had never even heard of it. So it's like I went into it totally blind and was like, "Whoa, this is a vampire movie." So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I went with I watched this channel Roanoke Games. He doesn't game, but he talks about like the biology of horror movies, and like it's super interesting. And he talked like 5 minutes about this movie, and I was already like, "All right, turning this off," and I'm watching it right now. And that's exactly what I did. It's awesome. It's very worth your time, both of you.
I love how it focuses on like from a mother's angle, from a like a parent's angle. Like it kind of has similarities to Birth Rebirth. Like there's elements like that. And also my only issue with Blood, like I really like it, but to me there's a movie that did similar thing and did it better, and that's My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. And like, because that movie is even more like powerful, even more heart-wrenching and all that, and it does similar things. The difference is in that movie, it's a brother and sister and their little brother. So like these two adults have this brother who's kind of like, he's kind of slow. Because like he's fully grown, but he's more like the mentality of like a little kid.
Oh, gotcha.
And he's super sweet, but he has this ailment, and the ailment makes him have to have blood. And it gets darker and darker as older brother and sister like have to find more and more ways to keep their brother alive. And I won't say anything else, but like, yeah. So it's a kind of similar thing, but I just felt like it's even more. But yeah, Blood's damn good. It really is.
I just wrote it down.
Seeing Skeet Ulrich.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, too. That was the other piece I was going to bring to it, because it's I know that's a seller for Luke, but yeah, that's it's one of those things for me where I just thought the movie was super unique. Definitely kind of one of those sneaky vampire movies that and I think the aesthetic, how they introduced all of that and everything, how it all happens, feels very natural, feels very much like we're doing this differently, but I appreciate all of it. So that's my pick for 10.
The set location is really cool.
Oh,
there. Like
so
the whole
good.
thing with everything with the tree and all that. It's very cool looking.
Say what's up to Big Rod. I wanted to say
What up, Big
What up,
Rod?
Big Rod?
Greetings. What's up, Steve? Nice
What's
to
up,
see you,
Steve?
buddy. I agree with this. That's why I love the Final Destination 6 trailer so much. I loved that trailer. And Michelle, please, we're going to be there all 3 days at Astro. So please, if you see us, come say hello. We would love to meet you, shake your hand in person. That would mean a lot. It really would. It would be dope to meet you in person. So
No bias whatsoever on that, Ken, just because it's, not your favorite horror franchise or whatever, one of them. So
right. Yeah. No bias there whatsoever.
Yeah.
What
Well, it
about
looks
you, Luke?
dope.
What's number 10 for you?
For me, I got to go with Blade. And this one, it holds a special place in my heart because I want to share a little personal story for this one. So I'm a big pro wrestling fan. And early 2000s, this used to play on TBS or TNT all the time. And
but it was all edited.
Yes, it was. And that's how I first saw it. And it was my mother, we didn't have the money to buy every pay-per-view for pro wrestling. So I don't know if you guys ever did this, but I used to turn on the squiggly line so I could listen to professional
Hear the pay-per-view?
wrestling. Yes. Yep. So on Sunday nights, my mother would let me stay up late. So I would just listen to the pay-per-view. And then if it was just kind of some downtime or something I wasn't really interested in, I would just flip through channels and I stumbled upon Blade. And I stayed up a little bit later than I should have, even after the pay-per-view, because I had to finish Blade. So this one, as soon as we get into that club scene where they're just dripping blood on everybody, I was hooked. And it was I love the darker tone, everything. This is that perfect mix of a superhero movie, but with those horror undertones to it. I think it's just a perfect mix. So this one, for me, absolute endless rewatchability.
Love Blade.
And how funny is it that eventually that went on to become a WWE film?
I know.
As the franchise went on.
I was so, it's like when we had, what was it? Blade Trinity with Triple H in the cast.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's why I don't want to see them remake Blade, because I just don't believe Marvel has it in them to let a movie be horror. Because you can't make Blade without it being a horror movie. Yes, it's a superhero movie, but it's very, it's very much horror. And I know they're going to neuter it. And you go and make a PG-13 neutered Blade. What's the point?
I think there's a very good chance that they are going to do PG-13 Blade.
Yep.
But I also think just with the development hell that this movie has been in now for the last 5-6 years that it's been announced. Mahershala Ali was announced, I think pre-pandemic to be Blade.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I've heard he's not in it anymore.
I've also heard a lot of rumors saying that he's fed up with it, which I don't blame him. I mean,
well, and he just was in. What is he in? I just saw him in.
He's in Jurassic. He's going to be in the new Jurassic. If you saw the trailer,
yeah.
He and it's he's a fantastic actor. He would have made a great Blade, I think. Yep. But I don't know. I think what they need to do is take Blade back. Just hold on to him for a little while longer. Maybe, and I mean, they made a ton of money from it, but let's be honest, Marvel's not at their peak anymore. Maybe if, the new Deadpool has given them some kind of, confidence to say, maybe a couple of these could be R-rated. I would say never say never on Blade.
No, I think that's what they need to do. And I think that is what will have ultimately happened, because we're seeing more and more R-rated movies making shitloads of money.
Yes.
You don't have to, dude, Marvel, you don't have to spend $250 million to make every damn movie. You just don't. Make Blade for $50 million, and then if you make 100 or 200 or whatever, cool, you made money. I don't get it
at that point.
Yeah,
there's
I
no
don't
such thing as
why
mid-range budgets movies anymore.
Well, no, it's really only Marvel. Everybody else seems to be able to, make movies for 50 to 100 million, but everything Marvel makes is or Disney,
anything,
not Marvel,
Disney or Warner Brothers. Yeah. It seems like they want to throw everything in the kitchen sink at every single movie, and it's just guys,
I think it's because
save a little bit.
They're constantly it's hard to not do this, because all it takes is one movie making over $1 billion, and it finances everything you've done in the last year or whatever. So that's the problem. And they also know that a movie like The Red One, if you throw The Rock and you throw some names at it, even if the movie isn't that great, even if it kind of flops, it's still going to make its money back.
Right.
And that's the deal with The Red One. It made 100 something million in theaters, but then from what I've heard, Prime paid I think it was $400 or $500 million for the rights to that movie. So it's like, you know, yeah, they spent 250 million. Yeah, they didn't make $1 billion on it, but they're still breaking even. And I think that's what Disney has figured out is we can still break even. And all it takes is like, it's like playing the lottery, you know, as long as we're breaking even on these, and then you get that one. And Blumhouse, same kind of thing. It's like, you know,
I'm not
throw
gonna
a
lie,
bunch of
though, I
shit
feel
at
like-
the wall. You just need one to hit.
Yeah, Marvel's getting close. Like, I'm pumped for Captain America. I'm going on Sunday morning.
It's gonna be so bad, dude.
I'm hoping not.
It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. I'm telling you.
I'm
Like,
looking
there is
forward.
no way that movie's good.
Watch, it's
Like-
gonna be the movie of the year.
No, because it's another one of those that's gone through developmental hell.
Yeah,
It has been through a
Like
lot.
they reshot like crazy amounts of reshoots.
Like,
they've
I don't want to
spent
turn this into
Tons of money.
a whole Marvel conversation, but since Luke is a huge WWE fan, I wanted to know, did you know about Roman Reigns being in that
Yeah.
movie, Luke?
I knew he was on shoots of things, but I didn't know he was in that one.
He was
Yeah,
apparently
they shot everything with
major
him and
villain.
then cut it out. Yep.
and
Was
they
it
cut
what-
him out. And
Oh
they put
wait, are you talking
Giancarlo
about Seth
Esposito.
Rollins? Not
Seth Rollins. That's
Okay,
my
I
bad,
knew
sorry.
that one. I was like, wait, I didn't know Roman was in it. But yeah, that one I knew because he had missed some time, and then they were like, oh yeah, he's supposed to be in the new Captain America, and then they're like, guess what? He's not anymore.
Dude,
I'd be
That was
fucking
crazy.
crazy, dude.
Right? Like, he shot a whole ass character for a movie.
Roman
And they're
Reigns
just like,
is going to
"We're
be the
gone.
next Rock.
It's whatever.
Like,
Yeah, he is.
dude, he
He
is
is.
like perfectly made to be, you know, a superhero action star guy. Like, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't already been being put in those roles. I mean, he's got the look. He's got the.
I'd probably say next like 5 years because
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he's still a main player, but I can see it becoming more
Yeah.
and more part.
But
Yeah,
like,
he's like-
yeah, because that's
he's
what
got-
the
he's
Rock
like
did.
the
He was still the main
combination
guy,
of,
but he was
like,
able to.
He's like the combination. He's like the love child of The Rock and God, what's his name? He's huge. Aquaman.
Oh, Jason
can't I-
Momoa.
Yeah,
Jason
That's what
Momoa.
I mean. That,
It's
he's
like,
like
he's
a
the love
perfectly-
child of them. He's like perfect
Yeah.
for movies.
Like,
You know
how
what
is
I
he
mean?
not like? I'm amazed at because he's not super young. I'm like, you know, now is the time to start putting him in movies. Like, he's, you know, I think 40, right around 40, like late 30s. Anyway, have you seen Dark Match? Speaking of wrestling,
Yes.
No.
Yeah, we saw.
it's on
We,
Check
Shudder.
that one out.
Very fun movie, dude. Very
I thought
fun.
so too. I think that's great. It's we did a review on it, and sometimes it's a hard sell for pro wrestling just because of the way they treat it. But I think Dark Match
Yeah.
found that perfect balance between horror and how pro wrestling
And
really
great
is.
characters, like really great
Absolutely.
characters that you really care.
I need to
Especially the
check it
main
out.
couple. Like, I love how
Yeah,
they're
Ken,
just
it's
like an
super
odd
good.
couple. They're not like
Very worth
they're
your
not
time.
super young. They're not super hot, but they're still attractive enough, and they're still badasses enough. But like, I love that about them. They felt like a real, authentic kind of couple.
Is
and
it
it's very
Stephen
cool.
Ode?
Yeah.
That's the character's name, the actor's name. Yeah, we've seen
Yep.
him in 2 things this year and or last year. And like, yeah, he's so good in Dark Match. Like, I love the chemistry between him and our lead. Like, I think they're so good together.
It's based on her name. It's Issa.
Yeah, we
something
had it
Issa.
down because we saw this at Fantasia Fest.
Yeah, I literally
Uh,
just talked about it in a video I just shot right before doing this.
It's amazing.
I like how J-Dub says nobody has the charisma of The Rock. I disagree.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
You watch your mouth,
Thank you,
J-Dub.
Ken. Thank you, Ken. That was fantastic.
You just
Dude,
made
I was
it
at-
tonight.
I was at Royal Rumble, and you could watch our shorts. When Joe Hendry comes out, I go fucking ham, dude. Like, I was just like,
As you should. That was fantastic. Since I know we're talking a lot of pro wrestling, but since he's been popping up everywhere, I just love that people are leaning into that Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe
Love him,
Hendry
dude.
stuff. It's
Love him.
fantastic.
Kanan, do you want to give
Her
us your
name
number
is-
10?
Her name was Aisha Issa.
Yes, beautiful,
She's
perfect.
great.
She's amazing. in that
Absolutely
movie.
fantastic. In that
Like, is
movie.
she an actual
Ken-
wrestler? Because like,
I don't think so. I have
Dude,
never
it-
heard of her, so I think she just went through some wrestling training, which I mean, major
I mean,
props to be
yeah.
able to
Right.
like
act
I'm
and then get
surprised
the
she's not at
movements
least like
down.
in the AEW or something. Because like,
Yeah.
you
If
felt
there's
like,
anything,
totally authentic.
If there's anything Ken can take away from our conversation of Dark Match here is you've got your movie lined up for the weekend, sir.
There you go.
You know what you're watching, so
Yep.
All right. So my number 10 is Afflicted from 2013.
Very good.
And it's another one of those movies, like the moment I say that it's a vampire movie kind of ruins it, because it's so much cooler to go in that movie blind.
I've
It's
seen
like the way it's set up is you don't know what's going on. The guy just starts getting sick, more and more sick, and more, and it's all found footage, but it's like that quality found footage where it's not like super shitty, shaky cam and stuff. But it feels so real. Like, especially like really up until the final act of that movie, like it feels like everything could really be happening. Like this is all for the like could, you know, like it's kind of still grounded in the real world, and then it just kind of goes off the deep end, and you want it to, like it doesn't feel out of nowhere, but it's like once it does go off the deep end, you're just like, damn. But very underrated movie.
I can say with Afflicted, that movie, I have a weird theory about. I think that movie, the only reason that more people don't know about it and haven't given it its flowers, I think, is because I'm sorry, but that poster like just undersells the shit out of it. It's perfect when you've seen the movie and you know what's going on, but looking at the back of a dude's head with that rash on it's just I passed that movie up so many times. That was another one. Roanoke Games started talking about it. I'm like, this sounds cool as hell. Pause the video, watch the movie, and then it's just that I love that shit. I thought that was
one thing
awesome.
The one thing I've learned so much from doing this channel is how much thumbnails matter. And basically a movie poster is a thumbnail. Like you could have the best fucking video and it doesn't matter if your thumbnail, and it's like I make good thumbnails and still like they just, but you'll get that one, and a lot of times you'll even know when you get it. You'll just get that one image. They're like, oh man, people will not be able to resist. They'll have to click on this. And it's that way. It just sucks. But it's like, if I were to make a movie poster for Afflicted, I don't know what I would do. It also is one of those things like Abigail, where they were trying to not give away in the trailer and in the marketing too much, because they want you to kind of be surprised that you're watching a vampire movie. So like they show you a little bit in the trailer, but not like flat out like, hey, this is what this is. But it's like, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do.
It's just one of those observations I had, because it's just like, this movie's awesome, and I don't know why I have passed it up so many times over the years. And it's just, that's all I can think of is just, I look at that poster and I'm just like, I mean, whatever. It's an infection movie. Who cares? Like, you know, because I'm sorry, as much as we try to live by don't judge a book by its cover, come on, everybody. We all do.
It's not even about judging it. It's not even about judging it. It's like when you're scrolling through Tubi or Shudder or Netflix, you know, you're just going, you have nothing else to go on. And which is literally why my channel exists, because I'm like, you know, you're just scrolling through and all you have is covers to go on. And it's like, if it doesn't catch your eye, you're probably not going to click on it. Like, why would you
scrolling?
Yeah. That's why title and thumbnail are huge on YouTube. But it's like, that's what I try to do is with the channel, is try to do that for you. You know what I mean? Like give you every week 10 movies that, you know, like give you a little bit more. Basically, like I'm not spoiling the movie, but I'm giving you a little bit more than just simply like a thumbnail. I'm trying to kind of guide you in the right direction. But
understood.
Yeah, Afflicted is definitely, and it also came out.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but it also came out at a time where there was a lot of found footage movies. And so it kind of got swallowed up in that early 2000s, you know, the 2000 to 2010 era, where there was just all like a ton of found footage. Cause it was like all these young filmmakers realized, hey, I can make a found footage movie with basically no money. And so it was like, oh, another found footage.
That's literally why like Luke and I like were not found footage people until we saw the double feature of Skinamarink and the Outwaters like within a couple weeks of each other. And we were like, these movies are doing such cool fucking shit. We need to watch more stuff that's like analog found footage.
Yeah,
and ever since
analog,
then, we have found a whole bunch to love.
Analog is about to take over. Like analog is about to be the big next wave in horror. A lot of people don't even realize it yet, and they're dumping on movies like, and I get it, because those movies are hard to kind of accept unless you're a hardcore film person. You know what I mean? Like Outwaters and Skinamarink are definitely like, you know, but there's going to be a common ground. Like, for instance, the guy, it's based on his name, but the guy that does the Backrooms, he's working on a movie with Blumhouse. And like, I have a feeling that movie will be like, they'll take the, you know, the liminal horror type of analog horror stuff, but put it in a little bit more of a palatable way that normal regular audiences will be able to, get it. And I think that's going to start like a chain reaction of us seeing more and more. It's like they just have to get the right kind of combination on those. But anyway, yeah, Afflicted is my number 10.
All right, Dylan, what about you? What's your number 9?
Oh, you didn't go for number 9.
I always rotate
rotates.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. My bad.
Luke will start at number 8, and that way I'm not just like starting us off every time like a dick.
Oh, understood. Okay, that's a lot better than what I do, and I think I'm gonna start doing that because I'm just like that's really keen. All right, so I'm between a couple on this. Like, I hate to say that this is my like official like this is how everything goes because I really just spent the last couple days putting it together, and vampire movies are honestly something I need to really take more time with. I think because I feel like everybody's been saying their lists are kind of basic. I feel like mine are too, but one of them that I was going to say, I'm going to be deeply surprised if anybody puts this in there, but it's an all-timer, fantastic, hilarious comedy. One of the best comedies ever. And that is What We Do in the Shadows.
Are you kidding me? Of course we all seen that one, man.
Perfect. There we go. Good. Cause that movie's incredible.
There's a good chance that'll come up later on my list.
There we go. Perfect. Because yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, and I have to throw in the bonus. If you guys have not seen the TV show,
a series is better, dude.
I have to.
Much as I love the movie, I think like it's just a little bit of a polish. It's like they took this amazing thing and just polished it a little bit better.
We've spent more time with them, is what I would say has happened. But like, I just can't think of that world without any of the characters, like Guillermo and everybody. I can't think of it without it. But not to go into that, I'm just gonna say the show and the movie totally worth your time. Some of the most fun ode to every kind of vampire a horror fan could love. They do everything from your Nosferatus to literally like your Lost Boys, your Interview with the Vampire. Like it goes all over. It's amazing. Perfect stuff.
We may talk about it again later. We've heard. What about you, Luke?
My number 9 right now is Abigail, and this one is, Dylan and I, we weren't the biggest fans of, the new installments of Scream. So going into Abigail, I had my hesitations about it, and I was like, okay, maybe they're giving away too much in the trailer. But the way, once I sat down in the theater for that film, I was fully engaged. Just the opening sequence of what exactly is going on, how they present it, I was hooked. And the way the cast plays with each other, the performances alone are just absolutely phenomenal. So that one, like right now, is at number 9. But honestly, that just came out last year, and it has. I find myself wanting to rewatch that so many times that being number 9 on that list, it's gonna be. I could see that being in top 5 eventually, just because it is like, a lot of those iconic. I know we'll probably talk about them, like Lost Boys, Fright Night, things like that, where it's like that comfort that you get of just turning that film on. And I get that with Abigail, so that one really has me excited. That's probably like the most digestible recent vampire flick that I've seen in a very long time.
I think that's a lot, like for me, the same with the one you picked.
What We Do in the Shadows.
No, the one you picked.
Renfield. Yeah,
it's my same thing with like Renfield, where it's like I love these movies, but because they're so new, it's hard for me to really, and so they kind of just left them off the list because I'm like, unless I am 100% like it's hard for me to put anything that's come out in the last couple of years on a top 10 list. But I agree 100% with those. Both those feel like as time goes by, we're going to love them more and more, and they'll become those comfort food, Lost Boys, those kind of the ones that we love from, the nostalgic element, as well as just being a fun kind of like, they're kind of lighthearted. They're not like, they're not super scary. They're not super serious. They're like, and there's something about that that's like comforting too, especially as a fan of horror, where it's like, it's not anything. It's like you could just be sick and watch them.
It's got that intangible kind of quality to it, where it's like it's hard to really put it into words. You just feel it as soon as you turn it on. It's like got this certain vibe to it.
And you can go in and out of Abigail. You don't have to be glued to the screen the whole time to understand what's going on in these movies. It's just a fun, mindless time. And I think that's fine for a lot of different horror movies. So what about you, Kainan? What's number 9 for you?
Fright Night. And Fright Night, it's that same kind of thing. Like for me as a kid, it was exactly what, it was like if I were, 8 years old, 7, 8 years old now, and Abigail came out, it would be that movie, but also Fright Night does something that a lot of those fun comfort food horror movies don't always do. And like, it's actually scary at times. It actually has menacing elements. And like, no matter when you watch that movie, it is still very much a horror movie. Like it's funny and lighthearted at times, but it also is still very much like a vampire movie. The vampires are vicious and like characters are in actual peril in it. You know what I mean? And like, and the practical effects, the way the vampires look in it,
So
like
good.
So good. It's such a fun movie. So
yeah. I agree.
Number 9 for me is Salem's Lot. As a kid,
remake or the old one?
I loved the remake. I know a lot of people didn't.
You
I loved the
did?
remake. I did.
I also liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
I did.
I didn't
I thought the
dislike
only-
it. I definitely didn't dislike it like a lot of people, but I just thought it was one of those movies that was frustrating to me because I'm like, there's so much here
100%.
that it could have been a classic. Like it had so many things. It felt
What
very
I
much like
wanted out of it-
studio meddling. Like you could
Yes.
feel the studio and different people messing with it too much.
I wish they would have done for the new Salem's Lot what they did for the new It and broke it up into 2 chapters. That way we could have got a lot more out of it.
Yeah.
And not condensed everything into one movie. But man, I'll never forget
Well, we've
being
heard
a kid and
since
seeing
even before it came out that they were going to do that with this. They're eventually going to release
Yes.
the director's cut, and it'll be a 2-part thing like the original Salem's Lot did.
I can't
And it's
wait.
like that's what this story needs. It's too.
Yep.
There's too much. You can't like cut it all apart and like that. That's my biggest problem with the new one. Really, is it just feels like
that was mine.
It's everything is jumping. It's like jump cutting this movie. It's like, what are you doing?
Like when we were kids, and the first time that he's in the grave, and you see him sit up when he's in the grave, or obviously the outside the window, I didn't have any. And again, I'm a lot older now, but I didn't have any of those moments with this remake. That was the problem I had with the remake, was I didn't have any of those type of moments. But man, the original, like I said, when the kid sat up out of the grave, that got me so bad when I was a kid. Like that was a genuine scare for me as a kid when that happened. So I would have been remiss if I didn't at least include this movie on the list. I do want to say right here, I hope that we give you some good ones, Dark Hems. I hope that you can walk away with this with some new movies to watch. Who wants to try to describe the difference between analog and the digital horror? Analog is more tape.
Yeah, analog is like, it's like purposely making it look like it's from the 80s, like early 80s.
Yes.
Like it's analog. Analog is before things were digital. It was when everything was on tape. Everything, like when you recorded a band, you recorded it to a tape versus now you record it to a hard drive. It's all digital information. And so
you get a lot of,
it's like really cutting things back and making it super simplistic. And there's something that's even more, there's something very eerie about that, like emotionless element to it.
It's really it's really unique in what they're doing with it. Honestly, I think it's the next evolution of found footage. When you were saying that, Kainan, I completely agree. It's going to be taken over here soon. And
someone wants to know like where to find analog stuff. Like my favorite, I mean, the backrooms is, but they're a little more in the liminal space, is not as much in the analog. But damn it, is it the Mandela tapes? No, the
Mandela tapes, or is it the Mandela? No. It's something like that. Hold on, I got you.
Maybe is it the Mandela tapes?
That's awesome, though. By the way, I know once we say it, we'll have it, but it's it is an M. Shit, I will find it, but keep going.
Yeah. So once he comes up with it, but like it's a perfect example of what is new in the analog space. But there's a bunch of it, like tons of creators coming out with stuff. There's one, I can't remember the name of
Poughkeepsie?
it, like
the Mandela catalog.
Yeah, the Mandela catalog. Yeah,
Mhm.
I knew it was Mandela, but I was like, tapes didn't sound right. Yeah, so the Mandela catalog, go and look it up. It's all free on YouTube, and they're just like the back rooms. It's like all these little short, like 5-10 minute long videos, but each one kind of adds into their piece, and they're still making them, and it's like you're still going further and further into this universe. But there's another one too that's doing
Gemini
one where
Home
you-
Entertainment.
Is that the one with the malls? What's the one that goes into the malls? The abandoned malls.
Where they're looking for the old house, where they find the old TVs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that one, Gemini. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that one's
Super
fantastic.
cool.
Yep, I love
But
that
there's
one.
tons of them. There's so many of them. They're coming out all the time. And a lot of that is also going in, bleeding over into gaming. Like there's tons of this, like liminal spaces and analog horror games too. So, but let's get back on track. Who is it?
Yeah. We are at number 8 with Luke.
We were talking about sick day horror, and this was the film I stumbled upon in 6th grade when I was not feeling well and stayed home. From Dusk Till Dawn.
Damn
And this
you.
one-
God.
Damn you.
I
Love
I
that
had
movie.
I had no clue what this film was. We opened up, in that convenience store, as they're robbing it or whatever, and I had no idea this was a vampire flick. And
Nobody did.
That's another one of those movies that, like, the moment you tell someone it's a vampire movie, you kind of ruined it. Because, like, dude, I went into it blind too. Most of us did that, saw it back in the day when it was in theaters, and it's like jaw on the floor. You're like thinking you're watching a crime movie,
and
what?
and I was hooked. 6th grade Luke, Selma Hayek's on the screen, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
wait a
God.
second, what's going on? Then we get to the vampire aspect to it, and I think it, how they used to on television, where it's like they would play it multiple days in a row when it was on television, being that regular rotation for a few weeks, and sure, Selma Hayek was a bonus, but I loved that the vampire aspect of it, and just what the makeup, the creature effects look like there was just absolutely spot on. So that one,
Well,
just
you had
had me so
Savini,
hooked.
like Savini actually in the movie is
Yep.
what's it,
In the
sexy
movie.
or whatever.
Yeah,
has the
his
penis
little
gun.
guns. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my
but
God.
then he also did
Sex
all those.
Machine.
Yeah, Sex Machine. That's what it is. But he also did all the makeup work. Like he was, did most of the vampires and stuff in that. Like, so great. That movie's like perfect for any teenage boy. It's like got
100%.
everything. that
No
you
joke.
want as a teenage boy.
Absolutely.
No
And
joke.
Love that
Clo-
movie.
Clooney's incredible in it.
Yep.
So
Dude,
it's like
I have tattoo on my neck, and it's because of Clooney's badass.
that's
That is
fucking
phenomenal.
amazing, dude.
Like ever since I saw it as a kid, I was like, someday when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna get my own tribal whatever. So like when I was like 20, I think, or 21 or whatever, I got this.
Well,
And
fuck
that's a
yeah.
film
Yeah.
where you feel
Love
like
that
no
movie.
one is safe because almost everybody
Dude,
kills
yeah.
them.
Yep.
And
Dude,
But
like,
you
when
almost
her
don't even
brother-
care
that-
because
Oh,
that's what's so fun about it is you almost don't care if anybody lives because you're just like the mayhem
Right.
of it is.
I know, and it's like you're eager to see what they're going to look like when they turn into
Yeah,
a vampire. Just
exactly.
because
Yep.
it's like I love the flavor to that one. It's like it's not vanilla at all. It really is
Yeah.
kind of like
Right.
everyone has
I-
their own little thing.
I don't want to derail us again, but I have to bring this up because this feels completely natural. Because the other day I had the thought, I don't know if it's just age and maybe with some of the comments he's made recently, like talking about films and stuff like not being good since 2019 or whatever. But I think over the years I've kind of, and the way that I rationalize this is like if you're a film kid, Tarantino at one point or another is going to be your favorite director. He's
Yep.
going to be the one where you're like, yep, he's the best, he's the greatest.
Yep.
And then, he's still incredible. And I say this, he's still amazing. He's still fantastic. I don't know. Something about me over the last few years, I've really leaned more towards Robert Rodriguez out of the two of them. I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's my love of horror taking over more, but like A Dusk Till Dawn is a perfect example of like they collaborated on that.
Yeah.
But like Robert Rodriguez brings something so special to this movie
Yeah.
when it comes to just like shooting at the tone.
Even if you look at the two movies they made with the
Yes, sir.
Grindhouse movies,
That was going to be my next point. Yeah.
like they're
and-
both fun, but I definitely Rodriguez is the one that at least back then I loved it. And I still do.
Mhm.
Much.
I just
more
think
fun.
that he's done so much more. Like looking at the catalog of movies, they're completely different.
Yep.
I get it. They're different people, even though they work together so well and they're good friends. But it's just one of those things for me where I don't know. It's like I kind of like that
Tarantino
Rodriguez
doesn't make a lot of movies either.
Yeah, but I like that.
You know,
like
that's part
Rodriguez
of it. It's
experimented throughout his entire
Exactly.
career. He made kids movies. He made
Right.
grindhouse epics in the Desperado trilogy.
Yep.
And
That's
it's
what
like,
I mean. Where it's like
he's so
Tarantino
inventive.
is so careful about any movies he makes because he makes so few movies that he never does get to do that experimental kind of thing. And like if I was a filmmaker, it's like I am with my channel. I'm more about quantity. Like quality is important, but like, dude, be creative. You know what I mean? Like throw a bunch of stuff out there. Like if you have an idea, make
have
that
fun
shit.
and experiment. It
Yeah.
feels, and I don't know. I guess there's just
I
some of that
love a world
rebellious
with both
spirit.
of them in it. I
Of
love a world
course.
with both of them in it, but I'm with you. I love, and Rodriguez doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's
Exactly.
made some great movies, and he just still does. Like he's still making stuff. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
anybody that says that horror movies are dead since 2019 is on crack. They just don't watch enough movies. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, you just don't watch enough movies. Like, dude, my top 20 from last year, some of the best, like my top 20, that was the best top 20 last year of horror movies I have had in like
last
5
year
years or
was
more.
pretty damn good. I think I feel like we've been spoiled since like 2022.
That's
but
what I mean.
the last 3 years have been so solid. But
even in 2020 and even in 2021, there wasn't like I was saying a 20 or 30 movie deep like that were amazing, but like we still had a good 10. Like the top 10,
Yeah, top 10 was hard
still
to rank.
good in 2020, 2021, 22. But yeah, 2022, I feel like since then it just gets better each year. You know, because 2023 and 2022 and 23 were both incredible as well. But like last year, I just was like maybe the cream of the crop wasn't the best year we've ever had kind of thing. But like, if you look at the depth of it, like, dude, 30 movies deep and they're all really good. I just think a lot of people don't watch the indie stuff. They don't see the little movies. You know, the Shudder movies,
especially that are
the Shudder IFC.
That aren't like horror fans. That to them is just like fan films almost. It's not a real form of art, and it pisses me off. You know, it doesn't have to be.
You got to look. You got to look for it. You got to look for it, and that's the thing. Like, I think that's the best way to describe the difference. It's like if you're a horror fan that looks for it, it's like if you're not a horror fan that looks for it, you didn't see The Damned in January. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you're a horror fan like I am that looks for the movies, I saw The Damned in theaters. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, there wasn't any good horror movies in January or whatever. It's like, well, you didn't look. You just only heard of, Presence, which was good, or Wolfman. You only heard of those because they were all big advertisements or whatever. But it's like the true winner of that month was The Damned.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel you. I get what you're saying with that for sure.
Yeah. I wish they would have played it around here. But Kainan, do you want to give us your number 8?
It's a rental now. It's only like a couple bucks.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth it, but it'll be on Shudder. I forget. I think it's next month. It's on Shudder.
Oh,
all right. Let's see, number 8, Interview with the Vampire.
Nice.
And like, this is what I was talking about when I said this isn't the best. This is just my favorites because Interview with the Vampire is one of those, like, if you rewatch it, especially as an adult now or whatever, you're gonna find flaws and stuff with it, but it's a movie that I argue you would have had to have been there because it was like peak everything, peak Hollywood, peak Brad Pitt, peak Tom Hanks. And the fact that it's an actual horror movie that has those stars at the peak of their powers, because both those guys were as hot as they ever were in their careers when that movie was made. You know, and
it's a very good gothic horror movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
And
it's like that modernizing it too, where it's like, of course they're jumping through time, but it never feels like it loses that style and that tone at all. Like it all feels like it's so good.
And it's like it was just a good story as well. It's like it had all these things, and so at the time it was just even though I don't think it's a movie that necessarily holds up. Like if you're a 16 to 18-year-old right now and you're asking, hey, Kainan, what is a good vampire movie? It's not going to be one that I recommend. Because they'd probably be like, it's not that great, man. Like, why are you hyping it up? But for me personally, everything about it did a lot for horror because of it was this big budget with everybody involved was super like big Hollywood, everybody. It got a lot of promotion. It made a lot of money in theaters. Like that did a lot for the horror genre back then.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Absolutely.
you know, and I still think it added something cool. It's like we've had movies since though that have done a lot of the same stuff better, but like at the
Mhm.
time, you know, I felt like, yeah. So
Well, see,
Absolutely.
it's funny you say that because that's exactly how I feel about my number 8. A lot of people are going to be like, yo, are you serious? Bro, it's got Paul Rubens in it, man. It's fucking Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You threw a knife
that
at
movie,
my head.
that movie holds up though.
Yes.
Like
dude,
I rewatched
love
that not
this
too long
movie,
ago, and I'm
man.
like, dude, it's still really funny. The action is still great. Like great cast. Like Buffy is still hot as fuck. Like you know what I mean? Like she still is hot as like man. She was super hot in that movie.
So this is
If
where I
anybody
really
hasn't seen it. Like, oh, go ahead, Dylan.
said this is where I really age myself out here. I didn't realize that Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a movie until
A lot of people don't.
until
Yeah.
like I was a lot older. So
Yeah.
like as I was growing up, like I knew it was a TV show. So yeah, this is one I am not familiar with. I have not seen the movie. I've seen a
and
little
like I
bit of
said,
the TV
like,
show.
I
I
think
think
that's the
everybody
problem
knows-
with it. It's still because the show got so big, a lot of people still don't even know that there was a movie. And it's different too. Cause like if you're like, oh, there's a movie, you're gonna go see it and be like, well, where's Sarah Michelle Gellar? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
I am a huge
hell yeah,
Paul Rubens fan.
Paul Rubin.
I'm a
There we
huge
go.
Dude, he's
Pee
so
Wee
good
fan.
in that movie. He's so
The
good as a
death scene
vampire.
as a kid used to get me all the time, where it just takes
Yeah.
forever. It's so perfect. He's just like kicking the wall. Oh my gosh, that is like I used to rewatch it as a kid. all
So
the
funny. That scene by itself is worth seeing the movie.
Dude, it is.
So
And like I
funny.
said, like when we were kids, me and my cousins, because we used to watch this movie all the time, we would always do that. You threw a knife at my head and you caught it. You threw a knife at my head.
Yeah, there's
with
so
Donald
many
Sutherland.
quotable, so many quotable
man, and,
scenes.
Like
That's
just,
the
like I
thing.
said,
Like, it's
I
not
love
only
this
super
movie
funny,
so much, man.
but it has great action too. Like the fighting and stuff is really good in it.
So good. She did amazing in this.
Yeah,
movie.
like the gymnastic element to it is crazy.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
You
when
know,
she's
like,
doing those flips, I was
Yeah,
like,
and she's really
Yeah.
doing that stuff. It's not like with Sarah Michelle Gellar where you could tell, like in the TV series,
Stunt guy
like,
comes in.
stunt guy comes in. You know, like there's like especially the gym scenes where you're like, dude, there's nobody else. Like it's her. You can see her face. as
Yeah.
she's doing all the stuff, and then it have deep fakes or anything.
Like I said, this
Great
may
pick.
be nostalgia speaking, but I would definitely still recommend this movie to people that like horror comedies that really hold up. And like Kainan
Yep.
said, very quotable, very fun. So, what about you, Dylan? What's your number 8?
Well, damn, I'm gonna have to definitely check this one out then, because yeah, I'm sure this was a conversation between Luke and I at
It's
some
like-
point.
It's like peak early 90s, man. It's like
Yeah.
right when the 80s and 90s meet. And so it still has some of that cheesiness of the 80s in it, but like it's not fully into the 90s, but it has and it
and it has David Arquette in. So.
Yep. It's such
Yeah,
a
sold.
fun movie, man.
Sold.
Such a
good.
fun movie.
David Arquette, and like I said, Paul Rubens, Donald Sutherland. Like it's a huge.
Is that
cast,
it?
Wasn't
Shit.
Is that David Arquette's first movie?
That might be. He's really young in it, so
Yeah.
that
He
really
is.
could be. He might have done something. There might be an obscure film out there that
Because it's definitely before 90210, right?
I think so. That's
Well, no, because I
Or
think
not
I think
90210.
Luke
I'm
Perry
thinking
was
of
in this.
Luke Perry.
yeah,
Yeah.
Luke Perry. Yeah,
That's what
Yeah.
that's what because he's in 90210. No, but
And then
what
you
I
also
meant,
got Hillary Swank's
it's
in this
definitely
movie.
before
Yeah.
Like,
Scream. It's definitely before
Seth
Scream.
Green?
Yeah, because
Mhm.
well, Neil
92.
Perry is like her
Love
main,
interest.
Yeah, like he's in it a lot,
Yeah.
and he's a badass in it.
Yeah. And then Arquette,
But I don't
Seth
know,
Green,
if
Hillary
that's
Swank, like they all
before-
have like those side roles.
But I don't know if that's before 90210 or not.
I think it was during.
It's
I think it
definitely
was still
before
during that
Scream
same
though, so
stretch.
it was definitely before David Arquette was a thing.
Yes.
Well, hell yeah. I'll have to check it out. So for my number 8 though, I'm including this because I wasn't sure, again, just kind of like with what we do in the shadows, but clearly I was wrong. I wasn't sure if anybody was going to include this, and I felt like Luke and I had a conversation a few weeks ago or like a month or so ago about this exact thing. I am going to put on for my number 8 the Fright Night remake, because I actually think that movie is quite a lot of fun. I saw that we got that from Netflix, or no, that was a Redbox movie. We got that from Redbox. So it was like right around when they first started doing that, and I remember renting that and watching it and just being like pretty caught up like with it, even though like that was right when I started watching like YouTube critics, and I feel like a lot of people, like the normie critics, were harsh on it because I wasn't like into horror critics or anything yet. So I just remember loving it and always feeling like, damn, I feel like I'm one of the only people that likes this movie. So I always thought it was like a boo-boo thing to bring up, but now I'm starting to learn that I'm not crazy for enjoying it. So
yeah, it's one of those movies where, because of the love for the original, it never had a chance. Like, it just never had a chance. It was just destroyed by critics and whatever. But like, as time's gone by, it's grown more and more of a following, because if you rewatch that movie, I think most people would be surprised. Like, damn, that's actually a really good movie. Too. And like, it does its own thing. It doesn't feel like it's just, you know, just shot for shot remake or anything either. And the cast,
I think the thing that bothered me the most about that movie
is amazing in it.
I didn't like Evil Ed in this movie, man. And it's nothing to do with I can't think McLovin. You know, it's nothing to do with him. Just the character, like the original Evil Ed was like this like sad,
so iconic, man.
Sadness inside of him, man. Like when he gives himself to Jerry Dandridge, man, and he's crying in that alley. Like, you know, he's like, I don't want to be alone anymore. You know, like he had this like real sadness about him, and that's why he was so outgoing and loud and funny. And the new guy didn't have that. Like, like the character.
It's something you just can't manufacture,
right?
You know, those like lightning in the bottle of that original, like. Because I think the dude that plays McLovin, or I forget his name too, but like, I think he does a fine job in it, but it's like one of those things like catching lightning in a bottle. You can't manufacture that. But I think still overall, like, I mean, dude, the cast is really great. Like, what's his name?
Tony Collette
that passed away.
I was literally going to say
it.
Yeah. So those are the
everybody. If you look at the cast, it's like, geez, I can't believe they were all in this.
Well, and Christopher Sarandon had a fucking cameo. You know, when they're on the road,
when
you're
he
like,
pops up, it's great.
Yeah, loved it. I was like, hey, I know that guy. All right, man. So that's
Dylan,
our number 8.
I like that you gave that movie love, because it doesn't get enough. It really is.
I just wanted to say also, real quick, Anton Yelchin was another big reason why I wanted to put.
That's what I was trying to think of his name. Unfortunately, he passed away right after that movie.
Yeah,
but it was after Green Room.
Good.
Yeah, it was a couple years.
It was like a year later. I think it was a year later.
I think that was because Green Room was 2015. So this was 2011. So I think it was like 2 years later.
Oh wow, it was that many years later.
Yeah, it was something.
Because he died right after Green Room, but I thought there was like only a couple years apart, or a year or so apart.
He was also great in
Star Trek.
No,
that
Alpha
movie
Dog.
where he's
which one?
Alpha Dog, where he's
I've seen that.
Oh, dude, where they kidnapped a kid.
Oh my gosh, that's
what's the movie I'm thinking of that he was in? That he's amazing though, where it's like just his name, his character name is the name of the movie.
Is that Charlie Bartlett? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's the movie with him, right?
I think
where he's like he
Odd
fights
Thomas?
these. Yes, Odd Thomas. That movie is so
Odd
fun.
Thomas. Yep.
I love Odd Thomas.
It's based off
But
a
dude-
Dean Koontz novel, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
You got to check out
I
Alpha
never
Dog.
understand why there's not more Dean Koontz adaptations. Like, it never makes sense to me. His work so much better than Stephen King. I'm sorry, I'm not saying he's a better writer, but like his stories translate into movies, I think, better, and yet you just don't see him. Like Phantoms is awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I love
it's like,
that.
I'm a big Dean Koontz fan, so it's like anytime I actually seek out when his books have been made into films, and again, it's so small compared to like Stephen
and
King.
they have the ones that do come out are tiny little budgets, and
they're
not really
like,
done
most
justice.
people have not
right?
even heard of them or aware that they even became films, because it's like even for me being a big Dean Koontz fan, I have to go back and be like, wait, that was a movie, and then I have to go find it.
Yep.
Right.
Very last thing on Anton Yelchin, and then we will move on, Ken. I'm sorry. There's a movie called The Rudderless. Don't if you've never seen Rudderless,
I've heard that movie's really good.
That movie is heartbreaking, and I love it. It's a good cry movie. It's awesome. It's
about like
it's dope.
That's Alpha Dog for me.
Passes away, and then he plays his songs, and they like
Yeah,
dude, like That's how I
It's
felt
epic.
about Alpha Dog is probably the movie that made me the most sad in my entire life. That movie completely destroyed me, so I get it. But Kainan, do you want to give us your number 7?
Everybody else did number 8.
Yep.
Okay. What We Do in the Shadows.
There we go.
So
yeah.
There it is.
I just, everything we said earlier, it's so much fun. We're werewolves, not swearwolves. I mean, like,
That was the name of our first episode of our channel.
It is
Werewolves,
so funny,
not swearwolves.
but it's also like aesthetically awesome. And they do such a good job. And like I said, I think the series does it even better. It's like they stood on their shoulders and just kept going with it. But like, it came out of nowhere and it was so creative. Like the ideas of showing like how they show the history and like through pictures, and like you learn, that these vampires have, or all these things that they've been through, and each character has their own unique story and personality because of like the journey that's kind of brought them to that moment. And like, yeah, it's such a good movie. Like, it still doesn't, like, it's funny because there's a lot of fans of the series. Like, it has a huge following, but I'm always still surprised how few people are like, know that there was a movie like that started it. But unfortunately, I think it's the wrong way to go. It's one of those where it's better if you see the movie first, then the series. Because if you see the series, you're like, the movie doesn't have those characters that you love. Like you said, Guillermo is just precious, dude. Like one of the best characters ever written in a comedy movie, a comedy show.
What they're doing with his arc and how they're tying it into, I won't spoil any of this, but
the final season just came out, right?
I think so. We were waiting to watch it because like my wife and we binged that show like crazy. Yeah. We always waited for the seasons to drop. So, but I gotta say, like, there's stuff they do in the show with characters and their arcs and things, especially the character Guillermo. That's just like, it starts off one way. It's the way you kind of expect from seeing the movie. So it's like, it's fine. It's working.
Yep.
Then they throw that twist in there and it's like,
it's just crazy because he's the most like nothing character when the show starts. Like Guillermo is like,
he is just the servant, he's just the, what do they call it? The familiar.
He's like, over each season, he becomes more and more of like the focal point in a lot of ways. Like,
it's perfect.
Everything kind of like centers around him, but it's great.
But Matt Berry is the heart and soul of that show. 100%.
Yep.
Love that man.
He is so fucking funny, dude. Oh my God, he's funny.
But we'll get off our soapbox now. What we do in the shadows.
Yeah, like if you haven't seen the series,
I will just keep talking, so I need to stop because like him and I'll just keep going back and forth till we've spoiled it all.
No, it's all good,
it's
man.
so good.
That's what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have fun.
But definitely watch the movie first. If you haven't seen any of it, watch the movie, and I guarantee you'll like the movie. I guarantee it. Like you watch, I can't even imagine anyone not at least being entertained by the movie. Like it's one of those that. Yeah, it's like
it's infectious. So, like, you'll love it.
Yeah,
it's New Zealand Taika Waititi Kiwi humor on point. It's amazing. It's dry. It's awesome. It's fantastic.
It's so weird how Taika Waititi could do stuff that's just brilliant and then go and do like Marvel stuff that's so not good. It really shows that how much Disney is screwing things up.
Man, Ragnarok,
if you look at all the different filmmakers,
I don't even want to hear it.
I know, but then he did Love and
we don't talk about that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it just shows you what Disney
we
is
forget
doing.
that one came out.
But that's what I mean. Right. Like they take the most talented artists and filmmakers and find a way to like I can't put it on the film. It's like I'm trying to remember who I was thinking of, but it's like sometimes you cannot put it on the filmmaker. Like you can't put it on the director. What was that? What did they say?
That was a quote.
If you're going, you'll know it.
That's a quote for you guys.
What's your obsession with virgin blood?
My number 7 is one of 2 foreign films actually that I have on this list, and they did do an American remake of this one, but it's Let the Right One In.
Excellent movie.
Yep, dude, I love this movie so much, and this also has everything that I love in a horror movie. Like it has like that redemption almost. You have a kid that's overcoming bullying. It's a dark comedy in a way.
It's unique.
Wasn't it?
It's very unique.
Very unique. I know a lot of people can't get past subtitles, but I'm telling you, this is a movie you got to check out.
Yeah, but it's also one of the few that the American remake is still incredibly good.
Yeah,
yeah.
They're different
one of those,
too. You know,
they are, but it's one of those rare cases where it's like, if you can't handle the subtitles, the American one is still pretty damn good.
Right.
It's kind of like
and that's
The
what
Ring to me. It's like, you know,
the American one to me wasn't bad. It just didn't hold up to that same level of brutality, I guess, that you get.
It didn't have that same cold. It's like what's the movie I'm thinking of? The there's something about foreign movies a lot of times. It's like Speak No Evil.
Speak No
where,
Evil.
You know, it's like the American remake is still good, but there's this vicious, cold quality that the foreign one had that just makes it so much more disturbing to me.
Right.
And like, I understand a lot of people liked the American one more because they didn't like the bleak ending. But to me, as far as stepping back as a movie, the foreign one was just
original.
Better. It's like, at what it's trying to say and the whole point of the message and everything. And Let the Right One In is the same thing as that. It has that. A lot of it's the little girl actress. Like, she's just
dude,
so good. But if I was doing a best of 10, that would definitely be near the top. If I was doing a best of.
What were you gonna say, Dylan?
Oh, I was gonna say, if you want to do the super chat first, I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
just before it goes.
We've got a $10 super chat from Bronson. Thank you so much. Who is your favorite and least favorite vampire? Least favorite for me is hard, just because I'm not a huge proponent in least favorite stuff. Usually, if I have a least favorite, it means I just didn't like it,
and I forget about it.
Yeah. So I will say my favorite vampire, even though it's not going to be at the top of my list, it is Dracula. I think Dracula, there's just something so sexy and seductive about Dracula.
Which one, though?
So I'm gonna say the 1931 Dracula is the one I'm going
Bela
with.
Lugosi.
Yeah, I think Bela Lugosi did amazing. Look, and so that would be my favorite. What about you guys?
My favorite would probably be Barlow.
Back
from
to that.
Salem's Lot. Like that, just his look, the age I was at when I saw it, like the lighting of it, the mood, and like when you don't see him through a lot of the movie, he's just talked about, and that's part of what makes him so like. And then when you do, he's just so everything you could, like every horror nightmare you could think of, kind of thing. Like he's just so cool. So I mean, I even have him. Well, I have Orlok, but basically the same design.
I'll say So.
I'm gonna say, and I might give one of my higher picks. I wouldn't say my number one, but higher. But I'm gonna go the flip side of you there, and I'm gonna say I like Marlowe from 30 Days of Night. That's the head vampire, Danny Houston's character.
I almost said that, but I didn't remember his name. But I almost said him because he is so
creepy,
wicked,
fucking vampire in that movie. The eyes, dude. The eyes. Like we'll talk about it some more later. So,
dude, what's the name of the actor that plays that?
Danny Houston.
Danny Houston. He is just an incredible actor too. Like, God, that movie's good. Anyway,
I'll give one of my favorites. For it. Again, it's gonna spoil something that's fairly high on my list, but I can't go against Bill Paxton as Severin from Near Dark. I think.
Oh my God,
that is just
hell yeah!
What a tremendous portrayal! So much charisma.
When he's standing on the bar, like, oh my God, dude.
What a scene!
So
when we talk about legitimately terrifying vampire scenes, that is one of the top for me. It's so iconic. I absolutely love it. So, and it's Bill Paxton. So, I mean, come on.
And since we got a super chat, guys, you know what that means.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Nothing like singing while you're shitting on the toilet.
Yep, that we all do. So, what about you, Dylan? What's your number 7?
My number 7. This one, I don't know if you guys are going to count it. Again, I really tried to reach here for some things. There's going to be some big ones. Like I'll get out of the way. Like I'm not going to have Nosferatu on my list just yet. You know, I love that movie to death. I do, but like I'm trying to talk about ones that I don't feel like get talked about a lot, and like I do in the channel now with these lists, try to find things that I may never get another excuse to talk about. And I Am Legend from the 2007 one, they are technically vampires. So they are. They because if you go back to the Omega Man, the story that was written, they're vampires.
Oh yeah, well those ones definitely are.
Yep. So
I'm because I Am Legend, it was more of kind of like calling it's kind of like calling 28 Days Later like those zombies. Yeah, like it's like they're infected. But
yeah, I give them the pass because they can't go out in the sunlight, it burns them. So I'm just like, even though I don't think we directly see them drinking blood at any point.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't
like.
But like, what is there like in that movie? Like, what is it like? Because they don't eat people, right? I mean, like, I'm trying to remember, like, when do we ever see them?
We don't ever see it, but
randomly
it's
kill people, almost like the rage virus, where they're just like attacking and killing for no reason, or the sadness, same kind of thing.
They're so like, not to go into the whole like lore and everything, but like I listened to like I forget, I think it's like Supernova something. It's one of these channels here that they did like a whole video essay on this like a couple of years ago, and I watched it because like this really flipped me on that whole concept.
The Last Man on Earth is actually the originator.
Mm-hmm.
And then Omega Man,
mm-hmm.
and then I Am Legend.
Yeah,
it's kind of made them a little bit different, because I would say Last Man on Earth, those ones feel more like I don't know if they're zombie feeling or if they're more vampire feeling in that movie. Probably more zombie feeling.
I think zombie in the very original Last Man on Earth, but I would say like by Omega Man they're kind of more zombie-ish, because Omega Man, their eyes are like red, aren't they, or something? Like they have something more like visual to them.
They're like a cult. They're like they're like, they make it out in that movie where it's like a new breed of humans, like it's morphing them into a different species, you know what I mean? And like they lean into that even more in I Am Legend.
Yeah.
But in Omega Man, they can still talk and they can still think, and they're not like zombie-ish.
Yeah, but I'm still gonna go.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it.
I'm gonna go with I Am Legend. Great flick, love it. Definitely one of the best, I would say, Will Smith movies. Certainly enjoyed it. Makes me cry every time. The dog, that one of the worst dog deaths in all of cinema, in my opinion. Hate it, absolutely hate it, but it's perfect. It's poetry.
And it's such a shame, because before the slap, we were hearing
going to get a sequel. Yeah, with Michael B. Jordan.
Yep. And then that fucking slap, dude, all of a sudden
ruined it all.
Quiet. That sucks, because I thought that was going to be good with him and Michael B. Jordan coming back, and Michael B. Jordan being introduced, kind of like Aaron Taylor Johnson in 28 Years. Like, it just,
and I've also heard that Sinners is birthed out of that.
Oh, that's fire! I didn't know that. I'm excited.
Because Michael B. Jordan is producing it and working with the director that did
Ryan Coogler.
But he did Creed,
one of the best. Yep.
Yeah. So like Coogler. I've heard that's kind of where this idea they took this and ran with this, which kind of goes back to your vampire thing. You know what I mean?
There you go. What about you, Luke?
What are we at?
I hope that movie's good. I really hope that movie's good. It looks cool.
You and me both.
Me too. Yeah, it's 7, Luke.
You know, Ken, when Dylan had told me we were doing vampires, I was like, do I even have 10 vampire films that I really enjoy? And then I started putting these together, and I was like, wait a second, there's a really strong 10 here, because my number 7 is one that I enjoy quite a bit. That's 30 Days of Night. And man, this one I really enjoyed, just the concept of actual 30 Days of Night, because it's like, there's so many, the formula is you just got to make it till the sun comes up and you're all golden. But like, what if you have that long span where no help is going to be coming, and this threat is out here for that much longer? And I absolutely loved it. I love the tension. There's just that eeriness of it being complete darkness. You're in the cold. It's so bitter out there. I think it just has its own flavor compared to other vampire flicks, and of course Josh Hartnett at the time. I mean, he's still a great actor, but I was sold instantly. I'm a huge fan of The Faculty, so it's like having him as that lead again. It always hits every time I turn this one on.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. It's a very, very well made movie. Now, what are your thoughts on? Thank you first off for being a member for so long, Bronson. That means a lot. What are your thoughts on Eddie Murphy, Nicolas Cage, Gary? Okay, which one was your favorite and least favorite out of these ones? So for me, favorite here would be Nicolas Cage, probably. Gary, I gotta go Gary Oldman. Least favorite would probably be Eddie Murphy, and this isn't a slam towards Eddie Murphy. I just thought that the other ones had done a better job. So, what about you guys on that one?
Least favorite is definitely Robert Pattinson.
Okay,
it's like I just don't even feel like those are vampire movies. Like I've never had any interest for me at all. So that one would be least, even though I'm a huge Robert Pattinson fan. Like I think he's one of the best actors we have, period, right now.
Same.
Probably Gary Oldman, even though I just rewatched that movie and I was surprised at how much I think that movie is a piece of crap now. Like it just really doesn't hold up. And I was shocked, but his performance is still amazing in it. Like the look, his charisma, like just his voice, like he's just awesome.
Yeah. What about you, Luke?
For me, probably my favorite out of them, I would have to say Gary Oldman as well, just because in terms of performance there, it's probably the most authentic. It's to be taken more serious than most of the other ones on the list. I'd have to go Robert Pattinson as well. I'd be more interested for him to play, to see his portrayals of vampire outside of the Twilight universe. Just because,
like now, if you were to do something now,
him doing something smaller and really kind of more true to what he wants to do, I think he could really knock it out of the park. It's just the Twilight films.
I mean, he was just a kid then, and he, like literally, he's said in numerous interviews, like it was money, like it was it's like he was a nobody, dude. He literally was like, you know, basically beg, borrowing, and stealing to eat at the time, and got this huge role. So. But yeah, I mean, if you've followed him in his indie movies that he's done in the last 10 years, like, dude, the guy's amazing. Like he's,
oh, dude,
so much range.
I'm going to go, just to be a little different from you guys. I'm going to go, Nicolas Cage, just cause again, I think like I did kind of smack mouth, Renfield a little bit there. I didn't express, I do enjoy the movie. It's just as far as like tones go for that movie, I wish it was a little bit more, I guess, like horror-y instead of action-y. But overall, I think that performance as Dracula is awesome. Obviously, Gary Oldman is probably the best on the list, but just to throw some flowers to Nicolas Cage.
I know, I almost picked Nicolas Cage too. Like that performance, like I said,
I know we all want to, so I'm just like, let me do that because I think we all agree that like.
What's your least favorite?
On there, probably, honestly, just because I was really disappointed by the movie, it was probably Eddie Murphy, just because I didn't really care for Vampire in Brooklyn.
Not at all.
It was not one that.
It's one that I hate when I hear people call it a horror movie. I'm like,
yeah, it's weird because that's Wes Craven, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So
like
weird.
It's crazy to me that that's him. Like, I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember when I was going through, my dad was having me watch a bunch of like Eddie Murphy stuff and Stripes and everything. I remember watching that on like Netflix streaming or something back when they first started, and like I was just like, this is not very good.
Which one is Johnny Depp? What vampire?
Dark Shadows.
Oh God.
Yeah,
that would be close to the worst.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yeah, I was not a fan
I
of that movie even.
Didn't even remember him really being a vampire. Like, I mean, I guess he is, but
right.
Ugh. That's another wasted one because you feel like he could have done a really good vampire. Like
he can come back and do one. Someone will get him.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like he's like an actor that I feel like was perfectly suited to do some creepy ass old vampire. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of times the people you least expect come out of nowhere and do like, you know, these incredible,
right?
You know, so
absolutely.
I mean, Skarsgård, dude, like the guy could be any creature. Like he's
amazing.
dude, he just like completely transforms who he is to do these.
If you wouldn't have told me that he was playing Orlok, I would have never guessed it was him.
Yep.
We were
Like,
talking
never
about
guessed it
that
was him.
we did a spoiler
Even-
review for that,
Dude,
and we were all
even
saying
if you
that.
look at pictures of him on set, like without the lighting, without all the, he's still, you're like, who the fuck is that?
I've
How is that
seen-
his Skarsgård?
I've seen 2 photos of him on set where I can tell it's him, and it's every time he doesn't have that fucking mustache on.
Yeah.
Once he has the
Don't even get me
mustache, it
started
covers
on that.
up just that, because he's got that, like, it changes the shape of his face.
Totally.
Because it's just like how it is. So it's like, it's one of those things where he's got a very unique, like, looking face, and it's recognizable, but like it's
funny that
gone.
that
It's just
mu-
gone
that
in
mustache
that makeup.
That mustache threw me off big time. Like when I'm watching the
Huge.
movie and I saw it, I was like, I don't know if I like this. Like, what the fuck? By the end of the movie, I'm like, hell yeah, dude. I love that
That's
they did
exactly
that.
the same
It's just like
experience I had.
bold
Luke and
swing,
you were,
and it was super unique, and it made him look different. It made him it's super accurate
Mhm.
because if he's a lord of that time, that's exactly what he would look like. So
yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of the Mario lock look.
Mario.
When he popped out of the coffin, I was like, wahoo! You know, like it
Yeah.
wasn't for me. No, but number 6 is the other foreign film that I wanted to talk about tonight, and it's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
I still haven't seen that one.
Oh man, Anna Lily
It's good.
Amirpour, dude, so good. It's all black and white. It takes place in Bad City. It's supposed to take place in Iran. And she's a vigilante vampire almost. I don't want to give away too much, but she's a badass skateboarding vampire, and she targets people that are not on the up and up throughout this film. So
What country is it from?
it was filmed in Texas, but it's supposed to take place in Iran.
What language is it in then? Is it
I
Middle
want to
Eastern
say,
language?
yeah, it's definitely subtitled.
That's so
I'm
weird,
looking
and
right
that it
now.
was shot in Texas. That's a trip.
Yeah,
It was shot
and
in
filmed in Texas.
Bakersfield, California, and I think it says Pasadena, Texas. Or
Yeah.
one of. hang
I've
on, where is
heard
it?
a ton of people telling me to watch it. Like when I did my vampire list, it's always the one that's mentioned. I just
yeah,
there's so many movies. It's like I can never get through
right.
my queue.
But I think
It,
you should check this out, man, because she's
No, I
she's
will.
Also,
I will.
You're also getting a badass female villain in this movie. I use that term loosely because she's kind of like the Punisher. You know, she's that justifiable villain. But again, I don't want to say too much, man, because I don't want to spoil it. Because this really is like she's
Yeah.
the type of chick I would have loved to have
And
hung
it's
out
one
with in
that a
high
lot of
school,
people
like-
haven't seen. Like I know it's
Yeah.
not seen by a lot of people. So yeah, it's
Right.
one that'll be perfect to kind of build a list around soon. So
The
I'll
Please
check
do.
that one out.
the tagline actually sums up the film perfectly, because I also enjoy this movie. I think it's great. I second everything Ken says there, and but it's the first Iranian vampire western.
That's perfect.
Dope. Was
Yep.
it made
That's
by
a-
an Iranian?
Yes,
Like
I
it's
don't know.
like
if-
I believe
someone
she
is
is.
Anna
in
Lily
America.
Amirpour?
I believe she is Iranian.
That sounds
or
like
at
an
least-
Iranian name.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Oh
Oh no,
I'm
she's
curious
from
if
the.
she's like-
She's actually from the UK.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
unless
I didn't
she's
think
like
she was Iranian.
second generation.
That's so interesting. Why, like, where did the Iranian part get in all?
It's
You know what I mean? Like,
Iranian
that's,
Right.
descent, so
Yeah, I think she's.
She is?
Iranian
Yes, yeah.
descent.
oh,
yeah.
okay. So she is. Yeah. So she's Iranian.
Okay.
She's just not born there.
That's why I said it. She
Cool.
was second generation, so she was like
Yeah.
her parents were. I think they immigrated there. Is what it says
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
And
That
she's
makes sense.
like I said, the movie is just absolutely fantastic. So I can't recommend it enough.
Great flick.
What about you, Dylan?
All right, so this is number 6, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, okay, I've been kind of debating on this one just because, like, as we've been talking, I've shifted like 2 things already. So, because it's like we talk about things, and then I'm like, I get excited, and I'm like, you know what? Actually, I feel like this because there's a lot of great ones. There's a lot of good ones, but we've already talked this one to death. But it's From Dusk Till Dawn. It's going to be on that one, so I was just going to put that there. So my next
That's
one,
so funny. Like
haven't
when he
mentioned
mentioned
yet,
it earlier, I was like, man, that's one I should have had on my list. 'Cause I'm like, I love that movie so much, but it's not on my list. I'm glad you guys mentioned it.
I mean, like I said, it's a movie that its reputation precedes it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to talk about Selma Hayek again, or?
No, I was just saying. That's why I said we
Her
talked
and
about
that
stuff. I
snake,
just got to
dude.
mention it. So
Like, I still swear that scene, her in that moment with that snake, is still the hottest. Like, and she's not even fully naked or nothing. It doesn't even matter. Like, that is the hottest scene, and for me personally, that I've ever seen. Like, just
because it leaves enough to your imagination too.
Yep.
Yeah.
To where you can and that to me is way sexier. There's nothing sexier than what I can imagine.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
what about you, Kainan? What's number 6 for you?
Gotta go with the good old boy Dracula from 1931, Bela Lugosi.
Oh, yeah.
I just Luke too. Didn't
What?
I?
What's
Didn't
that?
I skip you? Did I skip you just now?
Was that? What are we on? 6?
Yeah.
Yes, then you did.
Okay.
What
let Kainan
direction
go, and
are
then
we
we'll go back
going?
to you. Yeah,
That's fine.
We're
It's
going.
fine.
Are we like zigzagging?
We'll be all right.
Zigzagging?
It happens.
Ken
Yeah.
is
We're
mixing
good.
it up. I like it, keeping us on our toes.
But yeah, I mean Dracula. Like, who hasn't seen it? I mean, it's a foundation
It's one of the
horror
greats.
movie. Not my favorite, but
Agreed.
it's definitely still in my top 10 here at number 6. And if I were to make the best of, it's hard to not put it near the top because I mean it is such a pioneer. But like Bela Lugosi's performance, just, I mean, it's so much of what it's become, what we think of with vampires. It's so fun, so creepy, so eerie, like so many things. It's still a fun movie to watch, even if you're like not scared by it, of course, but there's still fun elements to it, like the little bee coming out of the little tiny coffin. Like, it's just fun little stuff like that you notice. And yeah, I just think it's a fun movie. Especially, it's so much better when they add the score. Like, if you ever watch it, don't watch it without the score.
It's one of those movies that I watch it probably every Halloween because I usually there'll be a night or two, like usually I pick a weekend, and it's been tough because we've been so busy the last couple Octobers, but I usually do try to find a little time, even if it's just after work, to sit down during October. I watch The Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
Normally I watch Dracula and The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then usually I kind of just toss up the rest, but I put them on for at least a little bit. Especially this past year, I showed my son a lot of them because he's really starting to get into the Wolfman and everything. So we watched some of those. Barely kept his attention because he's 2, but we're exposing him more.
Nothing feels more makes me feel like it's Halloween season for some reason than those old Universal classics.
You know why? It's
I'm the
because
same way. I have to watch some of this. Like, if you look around theaters near you, I recommend this. In October, they'll always, whatever theaters are near you, they'll always play one of those old classics, like Dracula. A lot of times, one of the coolest things I went to was they had the Spanish Dracula back to back with so both of them back to back. And a lot of people don't realize, but they literally shot it at the exact same time. So every night when the crew for Dracula 1931 would leave, the crew for the Spanish version would come in, and they'd literally made the exact same movie, just
That's
simply
hilarious.
in Spanish. And it's actually really good. In a lot of ways, it's better. The only thing that's not better, if you were to take the Spanish Dracula and put Bela Lugosi in it, it'd be perfect.
Okay.
But that's the only thing. The Spanish version, the guy that plays Dracula is just he's not as good as Bela Lugosi. He's still pretty good though. But I swear to God, everything else is better about the Spanish version.
That's amazing.
Nice.
I got to check that out then. I would love to see it.
Yeah, it's darker. Everything about it, it's the same story, but it's darker and more menacing, and it feels more horror.
Yeah. See,
Hell yeah.
I'm down. It seems like foreign always does that. It's always darker. So, what about you, Luke? What's your number 6 since I skipped you?
So my number 6, and a little peek behind the curtain, my notes legitimately say Nosferatu (parentheses figure that out later), because there was, in preparation for Robert Eggers' new one, I watched the other 2, and they're just so iconic. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about 2024 just for recency bias, because probably we're going to be talking about the other ones, I'm assuming. But, going into that one, it was I was excited for it, but I was kind of what can we do that's going to be new or feel a little bit different?
Right.
I think Robert Eggers kept the DNA of the iconic story, but then also put in his just enough of his own flavor into it to kind of say, okay, so when we look at something like the original or the 70s version, and those kind of became iconic tentpole films, to say, okay, this is our generation's Nosferatu. And I feel like we did get that with Robert Eggers, to say, okay, this is a modern take on it. And a lot of people are going to look at that and say, this is my Nosferatu. And I did love that about it, because it does have something different, but also presents something completely iconic to it. So that one, and I've watched it since the theater, great theatrical experience. And I was on board with the mustache. I love that take on it. I thought the design was really well done, and even giving it that second watch, it still holds up. So I think, just like Abigail, this is probably going to be one that is going to be in my regular rotation. I'm going to have that much more love for it in years to come, because I think he did tap into something special there.
Sure. And I hope that we can continue. Me, again, we'll talk about this a little later, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the Nosferatu film. And it's nothing to do with Eggers. I think Eggers is great. I thought the cinematography was great. It's just, I can only see the same iteration of the same story so many times before I'm just like, okay, I don't have to see this iteration anymore. I could be happy if we never do another iteration of Dracula or, Nosferatu as Orlok. If we never do any of those same stories again, I'll be fine. So, let's go to number 5. Let's start with you,
It's
Dylan.
cool, Ken. You just can't hang, bro. It's all good. It's fine, man. Yeah. We like the complicated Nosferatu blah blah art film, right? Go on.
I was just mad that he wasn't turning the light on and off for SpongeBob in this movie. I was like, this isn't
pissed.
accurate at all.
I deducted 3 points because of that solely.
You want to give us your number 5, Dylan?
Yes. I also want to make an announcement to Luke, because we've been waiting for this. They finally shipped our attack packs. So if you watch us on the Beyond the Splatter Graves, keep wanting to say by admission only. But like Beyond the Splatter Graves, you watch that. It's been an ongoing saga every episode. The last few of Evan and I going back and forth for at least 5 minutes about when are they going to ship our art attack packs, because we've been waiting for those, man, and it's driving me crazy.
What is an art attack pack?
Oh, it's all the movie. It's the umbrella version where you get all 3 of the movies, and you get like a VHS for part 3.
What movie?
Terrifier 3. Sorry, what the hell am I saying?
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So you get all 3.
Yes, you get all 3 in like umbrella packaging. It's pretty. Just look up the Art Attack umbrella, and you'll see it. It's amazing. But
that's very cool.
To get back on the topic at hand with vampires, I have one that I feel like maybe people will have this up higher, because I know this one's highly regarded. I adore it. And I'm going with 2009's Daybreakers. Any fans in here?
I've never seen it.
Really?
What? I think it's great. It's not on my list.
Interesting.
But
take,
it's one that probably I literally just talked about it on a list though. But yeah, it would have been an honorable mention for sure. Like as far as action, horror movies, like vampire horror movies go, it's like up there, up there with Blade and stuff. Like
I really like because that's funny, because you're right, it is action heavy, but it's like one that I never think about the action when I think back about this movie. I love the concept
dystopian
of the world with vampires. I love seeing the humans all like strung up like bags and
cattle.
Stuff. It's super cool. Yeah,
it's almost like what True Blood did, but like darker
on the
and
corporate
even more,
level.
It's
like you add that whole capitalistic element to it. Just like people getting mad about like their coffee being like, what is it, like it's only like 8% or 15% real blood and stuff like that. It's like that's just so many cool creative ideas. But I mean, also you got Willem Dafoe, Ethan Hawke, Sam Neill. Like it's a great cast.
Incredible cast.
I also love the fact
that it has this like Matrix, almost like modern sci-fi-ish element, like look to it.
It's definitely like a mid 2000s action movie aesthetic. Like everything had that kind of that look to it.
What was that movie with Christian Bale, the one where he's fighting and it's
Equilibrium?
Like yeah, it has a very similar to, and I love Equilibrium. I think that movie's fantastic. But it has a little bit of that same kind of thing going on, same era.
And the last thing I'll say about it is I also like that this isn't just a, simple one vampire style, we're done. They have when they starve, they have like this compete, like their flesh binds together into bat wings and they turn into like monsters. It's really great, Ken. You need to check it out.
I've got
it's got like
Blood
full
and
on
Daybreakers
like
both written
war.
down.
It's got like full on war, like combat scenes. Like when I say action, I don't just mean like hand to hand. It's got like bazooka shit, like armored tanks transporting.
But
and
I never like think about that
cool.
when I talk about this movie. I'm always thinking about the mystery and the story behind it. It's really well done.
Well, because the visuals that really stick with you are the, like you said, the haunting look of everything grayed out looking, and all the bodies just be like they're literally just humans are just sacks of blood. That's literally all they are. Right. And it's just like, it's very cool.
It's excellent.
Yep.
Like I said, I wrote down Blood and Daybreaker so I could check both of them out. These are movies that I got to check out this weekend. Also what was the Dark Side of the Ring? Is that what it's called?
Dark Match.
Dark Match. That's the other one I didn't write down. All right.
Yeah, that one's on Shudder.
Luke, you want to give us your number 5?
My number 5 is a South Korean film titled Thirst.
That's another one that everybody tells me I need to watch.
It is so good.
So good.
That one actually, I purchased. It was like a $5 on Vudu at the time, and it was during the pandemic as well. And this one it takes place like during this kind of virus, and we have this priest that volunteers to take a antidote to see if it's going to be the cure, which. This happens all in the first 10 minutes, so it's not really a big spoiler. It kills him, but then he gets a blood transfusion that saves him, and then he finds out that he is a vampire. And the only thing that is going to prevent him from this virus taking over is if he does feed. So it's South Korean films just have a really, really great atmosphere to them. And just the setting alone is really well done. I mean, you have the struggling of religion and becoming this vampire, but then also he does have a love interest in it as well. So it just becomes this, a lot of different themes going on here. It's really well done. A lot of great acting as well. Definitely. Put it on your watch list. That one, it was a sleeper for me. I just bought it on a whim and I was like, man, this one is really good.
It seems like every time one of you talk, I'm like,
you just made the list.
Got 4 movies now: Dark Match, Blood, Daybreakers, Thirst. My list is ever expanding.
That's one of those movies like I just know I'll like, but with foreign, it's hard for me because of subtitles and stuff to always watch.
You have to be invested. And it's like over 2 hours. A lot of South Korean films are push over that 2 hour.
But I mean, it's like Train to Busan is one of the best zombie movies ever made in South Korean. Like South Koreans make amazing horror movies.
Oh yeah.
So but part of the reason I hadn't seen it is it's hard to find streaming. Last time I checked, like it wasn't streaming anywhere. You couldn't even rent it. So
I don't think that one is streaming anywhere because I think I looked it up prior to this. But really good, really well done.
It's one that I know I definitely want to see, but I don't know when it's going to be streaming. It might be streaming. Who knows? It's a rental. It's a rental now. But Luke beat me to the punch. But Nosferatu 2024, man.
Oh yeah, dude.
It is to me like the perfect homage vampire movie. It's like, do we know the story? Well, yeah. That's literally not the point. Like you don't go see that movie if you're going for the story. You're like, hey, we've seen Dracula, we've seen Nosferatu. They're basically the same story. We've seen it a bunch of times. Like it is totally about the vibe. It's about the way it looks. It's about the atmosphere. It's about the performances. Like he gets dread and evil and like that darkness better than almost any filmmaker I've ever seen. Like, I don't know what he does, but like The Witch had it, like his movies, there's just this ominous, what I basically call like real evil. Like they actually feel like, a lot of movies like try to get all spooky and evil and demonic and whatever. And they're like, whatever. But like he captures like what truly makes humans evil or what truly is darkness. You know what I mean?
They're like, whatever. I love that. And I agree. I think that Robert Eggers is amazing. I think that I still need to see The Northman. I've talked about that.
Oh, you'd like
I'm
that
also
one, Ken?
I'm one of the few that really, really liked The Lighthouse. I thought The Lighthouse was a very good film.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I liked Nosferatu.
It
It's
got
just-
the
it didn't-
dystopian, like The Lighthouse has the darkness in it too that I'm talking about, but it's in a dystopian way, like that Lovecraftian way. But it's still in there. Like it's crazy. Like he gets it. Like it's so hard to even convey into words.
He does, but I would say, just to put this out there for people who aren't familiar with this stuff, I would say The Northman's his most, like, I guess the word user friendly is not the term I'm looking for, but like his most accessible film, for people, because like it's
the least
it's a very
artsy slow, but it's not a slow burn. It has much
it's still
more action in
beautiful.
it.
It's still gorgeous, but it's also just like the story is very direct. It is very much like, this is what happens. This is what's going on now. We are walking our way that way until it's done. And boy, does it get done. And I fucking love everything about it. You got to watch it.
I need to.
But it's also the least horror. Like
it is. Yeah. I wouldn't even
that's
consider
why.
it horror.
Yeah.
That's why I think
there's
I didn't
only
quite
really
get it.
like one scene, two scenes. There's like two scenes in it that feel kind of horror, but like it just doesn't. It feels more like a period piece, like action, warrior, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a voyage, like an adventure.
Yeah,
I forget the word I'm looking for, but like like an Odyssey. Like it has almost this Odyssey action vibe to it, but very cool. But it's probably my least favorite of his, just because of it not being horror.
Right.
Because like even Lighthouse, a lot of people argue it's not horror, but it's like, to me, you're not
That movie
paying
is
attention.
definitely horror.
It's like you're not paying
100%
attention,
horror.
because it's all about, like, I have to explain this all the time. Like, I feel like I'm always a teacher of horror, but it's like, you have to understand the blanket of what horror is. Like, it isn't just getting scared.
Right.
Like, so many people, like, I feel like that's a gateway horror fan. That's like, it's not scary. It's not horror. It's like, dude, you're a noob. Go away.
have a
Come back
lot
in a
to
few
learn.
years. Exactly. because dread and, anxiety, like fear, like all these other emotions and stuff are also in horror when it, when it's done right. And like Eggers lives in those places. He doesn't live in the scary, in the scary shadows. He lives in the dread-filled shadows,
You don't need jump scares to be scary.
Exactly.
Yeah. For number 5, I'm not going to dwell on my number 5 for too long, because we've all talked about it, and we're all going to talk about it, I'm sure, at least at some point. For me, it's going to be Bram Stoker's Dracula. This was probably one of the movies that made me go, like, a vampire movie can also be very beautiful and sad. And it's a movie that I've always felt is beautiful. That's the best way I can word it. It's a beautiful movie. Gary Oldman's fantastic. There's so many great things throughout this movie that I could wax poetic about it for hours. At any time, this could jump. My 5 through 2 are kind of interchangeable. Number 1 is pretty set,
Yeah.
But I love Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it's a movie I think it's always meant a lot to me. So that's my number 5. So
I am sad. It is the one movie. Remember, I told you yesterday that I had to rework my list. This is the list I made like a long time ago when I made a video and stuff. But that's the one movie I had to take off and replace on this list. And it broke my heart, but I just saw it in theaters like last week, and it does not hold up. It just doesn't hold up today. And
I haven't seen it in probably 10 years.
Exactly. That was the same for me. I had seen it numerous times. Like, I saw it in theaters a couple times, like numerous times, but it had been at least 10 years since I had rewatched it. And there's a couple things. Part of it is because I watch so many movies now. So like, even though I don't consider myself a critic or anything, you can't help but be more and more educated,
pick apart,
and more and more learned as you watch more and more movies. And there's so many problems, dude. The dialogue is bad. The performances from everybody but Gary Oldman are just really not good. And like, it's especially after watching Nosferatu, and you're like, oh fuck, dude. Like, even if you want to take out the vampire itself, like even if you're not a fan of Robert Eggers, Nosferatu, or Orlok, and you take him out, Gary Oldman, you could say that's a better version of it or whatever. But everything else besides that is like just literally light years better. And it sucks because it's like, it is one of those movies that I always said was in my top 5. It's one of the few times
we grew up with
I
it,
feel
man.
this different about a movie, like probably ever.
Right.
Like when I rewatch all these movies, they end up, if anything, like when I rewatch Lost Boys or rewatch like any of these movies I grew up with, if anything, they kind of go higher on my list. I'm like, damn, man, it's even better than I remembered. It's not.
Fair.
Like, no.
Yeah. That's how I feel right now. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it though, because it's been, like I said, probably 10 years since I've seen it.
There's still so much great about it though, so it's not like
sure. But Luke, you want to start us off with your number 4?
Yeah. My number 4, you already talked about it, Ken. Let the Right One In. That one, absolutely love it. I think it has that kind of tone like a 30 Days of Night with that bitterness, with the snow and it's just cold out, that eeriness to it, but it's also has that more intimate tale to it. And I love that, we're not necessarily preying on this young boy, that there is a friendship that ensues there. But, I think anytime you're really dealing with children in horror, you automatically tense up. And I easily get that with Let the Right One In, because you just don't really know what's going to happen. And this one, honestly, I think between this and Itchy the Killer were my like introduction into foreign horror, and both those were just on. You remember when you get those subscriptions to HBO, to be like, hey, try it for a weekend, and it was like, I remember watching Itchy the Killer. Boy, what a weekend it was! Itchy the Killer and Let the Right One In, and I was like, okay, these are rather interesting films, and I think that really opened up the gateway to be like, man, a lot of these foreign films, they're able to kind of tackle subject matter in such a way that it feels so different. And I think Let the Right One In has that real authentic, different kind of feel to it.
And especially, I think another big thing is, especially little girls are supposed to be just like this pure angelic thing. So when you have an evil little girl, especially, I think it's so much harder to die. It's like an evil grandma, like you're a grandma. You're not supposed to be bad. It's
also
doing? Like,
interesting when you think about the fact that she's not even a little girl.
Yeah, they hold gender.
So it's like she's hanging out with this little boy and she looks like a little girl, but in reality, she's like, 100, 200 years old. Like, who knows?
Right. But yeah, when you see her, you're just
weird,
like,
uncomfortable quality to it.
Yep.
Right. You're just like, when you first start to get to know her, you're like, man, it's kind of like Orphan, like you're like, man, little girl.
I was gonna say Orphan.
Like
it's very Orphan.
God, Orphan is so good. Orphan is another one of those movies that if you tell someone even the basic premise of it, you ruin it.
You're ruining it. Yep.
Like, just trust me on this one. Just go see it.
Yeah.
Orphan 2 is like amazingly, like, so surprising.
I loved
that
Orphan
movie
2.
Is.
I agree.
Yep, and I love that they're making a third one, dude. I'm like, hell
me
yeah.
too. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, Kainan, you want to give us your number 4?
4, right?
What's up, dude?
Blade, man. I mean, dude, Wesley Snipes. Like, back in the day, like, there was no one that I thought of as more of a badass than Wesley Snipes. And like, it was like one of those movies where I was much more of an action fan back then. And like, I liked a little bit of horror, like the creep, but it was more surface level. It was more like Jurassic Park level of horror, where it was more really thriller. You know what I mean? But it was like Blade was one of those where it was like the action got me there, but the horror, I'm like, okay, I think I love horror. It was like one of those that pulled me in. Like there was a number of movies, but it was like, in a lot of ways, like the beginning of my love for horror back then. But just that movie is so well done, still holds up, and it's in an era where a lot of those movies don't hold up. Like if you rewatch them,
right?
But that one still really does, because everybody's given everything they got. Like, you know what I mean?
Dorff is Frost.
Yeah,
in that.
It's so
perfect.
badass in that. I even had their action figures on my wall back then. I had the Frost and love this movie. So.
Yeah.
And I'm actually one of the people who actually enjoys all 3. Like, I'm not going to say they're all as good as the first one, but I still enjoy all 3 of them.
I'll say I think they're all fun. I was never
Yeah,
bored
they're all fun
watching
flicks.
a Blade
I like
movie.
the first two more than the third, but even I have some fun with the third one.
Right.
We talked about Triple H
Same.
with a cat.
Triple
Come on,
H,
yeah.
man.
Yep.
Time to
Well, the
play
second one is
game.
still really good. I don't know if I think
Yeah.
the second's as good as the first movie, but it's close. But the third one definitely takes a step back. But like, it's to me, it's not as good, but it's maybe more fun. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
there's something that a little more
Yeah.
cheesy about it. That's just like you said with Triple H and like Ryan Reynolds' character. Like, it's
It
just
knows what
it's
stupid
doing at
fun.
that point.
Yeah, exactly.
They did what they set out to do and make a fun vampire movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me, again, not one I'm going to sit on for hours because we've talked about it already, and it's the OG Dracula from 1931. If we're talking about our favorite vampires, obviously this would probably be at the top of the list. None of these movies would exist the way they do, I think, without this movie. I think that, a lot of our Universal monsters created what we have today, and Bela Lugosi started that sexy Dracula vampire where,
I mean,
he
him and
sits
Boris
back there.
Karloff basically created horror.
Yep.
So
And you had Christopher Lee, he came in and he did his interpretation with the Hammer horror stuff. And I do love, the close-up bloodshot eyes of Christopher Lee. That's something else.
I love Christopher Lee, but like he still was standing on the shoulders of what Bela Lugosi had already built. So,
and it's hard to top even nowadays to top what Bela was with the sex appeal and the the him being able to mesmerize his.
I mean, he is so iconic that we still, when you're doing a vampire, you go, I want to suck your blood. It's from him. Like we still use that accent. Him. Yeah, like it's crazy.
100%.
Like none of us were even thought of. I mean, our parents weren't even thought of when that movie was made, and yet
we're still that much into him. Yes. So my number 4 is Dracula from 1931. So what about you, Dylan?
So my number 4, and this I think will I'm curious now because we're getting down to the bottom of the list. I assumed this was going to be up there for some of us, but now I'm curious if I may be one of the only people who have it, and that's going to be The Lost Boys. Number 4. Nothing wrong with it. It's like picking between your children these last 4 or 5 films. So, it was just where my head was at. I love that movie to death. It's like the quintessential vampire movie of like every horror fan's childhood and then some. It's one of the greats for a reason. I think that the cast is excellent. I mean, Kiefer Sutherland, I think he's just iconic as one of the most. It was honestly, as we were discussing like favorite vampires, I'm like, damn, I should have said that because like that's such an iconic look. David's one of those ones that you always think about when you think vampire movies.
Yeah, I agree. And the good thing about, like I said, my Dracula is my number 1, but my number 1 we will talk about later. I didn't want to say it because it'll spoil what my number 1 movie is. But Kainan, do you want to start us off at number 3? I got to go be dad for a second, guys, so I will be right back.
My number 3 is the Salem's Lot from 1979. I just love the mood of this movie so much. It just oozes like that creepy 1970s nostalgic feel. Like, it's a movie that came out basically before I was even alive, or I guess I was barely alive, but it's like, it has this timeless feel to it. Like, once again, kind of had like that 31 Dracula to me, where it's like, yeah, it's slow and all of that, but it gives it that, I don't know, it gives it character. You know what I mean? Like the style and look of the time and the pacing of it and just the characters involved, it's very much a movie of its time, but where because of its time is part of what makes it so special, It's also like probably one of the few films, like it's okay, not few films, I guess that's a bad way to put it, but like it's one of those films of that era that just like whenever I see that style, that approach to Stephen King material, like just that feel, that tone, that's what I think of. That's what I don't think of like it. When people mention Stephen King, I think of Salem's Lot, Cujo, It from the 90s, all those ones. Yeah, like I think of the ones, and then of course there's the big ones like, Shining, which is Kubrick's own thing. And then, of course, we have all this other stuff. But, like, I always think about that era, Salem's Lot era, like that tone, that feel. Yeah, like when Stephen King was, like, first discovered,
I think it's sometimes they come back.
Yeah.
What's that?
There you go.
Oh yeah.
I sometimes they come back. Another movie, again, we're getting up there, so I'm not going to go on too long about these movies, but number 3 for me, Abigail.
Wow.
A lot of people may say this is very high. The reason why
I'm surprised that it's this high.
The reason why is because we went and seen it on Friday, and then on Saturday we took our 12-year-old and 5-year-old daughters to see it. And it was my 5-year-old's first movie experience in the theater with a horror movie, and she loved it so much that she was
That's
Abigail
awesome.
for Halloween. She just had her birthday,
cool.
and she had an Abigail birthday cake. I was lucky enough to be able to meet the young lady that played Abigail, and she did a video message for my daughter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just telling her how much she
that's so
appreciated her and how
cool.
much she loved the movie. And so there was a lot of like personal reasons why this movie means so much to me. And when we got in the car, we asked our daughters, hey, what was your favorite part of the movie? And my 5-year-old was like, I can't say it. And I was like, you could say it. And she goes, Sammy, those are fucking onions. Like it was. I think it's just because all the adults in the theater laughed.
Yeah.
Dude,
so like,
that made me laugh so hard. Like I
Yes.
just don't get people that didn't enjoy the humor of that movie. 'Cause,
Same.
like
Same.
dude, it's so funny to me.
Yeah,
Like
that
I've
movie,
argued to death with DJ, my co-host on my podcast. Like he hates
Yeah.
that movie, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like I don't like. Sometimes a movie doesn't have to have some super serious, complicated story. It could just be a fun, like entertaining time.
I mean, I think like the performances are great in that movie through and through. I love everybody, but like what Dan Stevens does
Mhm.
with that character just like gets so lost in that. And like for
Dude,
the
he's
years
such
that
a
he
great
had,
actor, man. Like,
he is one of the best.
yeah, and it's like each
He needs to
role,
do more.
like he doesn't. He's one of those few actors that doesn't really have to change the way he looks,
Right.
Mhm.
and yet can be a completely different character in each movie. And like that's hard
Yes.
to do because like a lot of actors, they'll have all the prosthetics or they'll learn to walk different and dress totally different. Like Dan Stevens kind of looks about the same in every movie, but like I mean his role in Cuckoo versus Abigail, I mean like night and day
Yep,
different
completely different.
character.
I was about to say, like, last year alone, you saw 3 different sides of it. You saw him in Kong and Godzilla, where he's kind of a goofy, fun-loving
Yep.
character.
Yep.
Yep.
Cuckoo, he's a complete psychopath. And then in this, he's like a pseudo hitman mobster guy who's just like,
Yeah.
fuck, like, I'm undercover.
And-
it's like,
Each one of them, he nailed. He
Mhm.
nailed each one of those
Yep.
roles. So I think, like, again, personal reasons is why this movie is so high. Watching my little girl get so obsessed with this character was super cool for
oh,
me.
absolutely.
Because before that, it was Megan, but she was too young to go see Megan in cinema. So she
Yeah.
got to see Megan at home, and she loved it and had fun with it.
Megan,
But
too.
actually, take her to cinema. Oh, we'll be taking her to the cinema to see
Megan,
Megan
too.
for
There
sure.
you go. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I can't wait for this summer. I'm
I
taking
think
my
they
son to see
ruined-
Jurassic Park. I'm so
I think
excited.
they're going to completely ruin Megan too.
I love that they're going with
Because-
the Terminator 2 thing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I don't love because I'm like, you're going completely away from like for one, she's gonna look like a teenager now.
Yeah.
Like she's all grown up looking, and like you're going with this, you're going away from horror. Like it's not gonna really be horror anymore at all. It's action sci-fi is the way they're even promoting it. And like that just bugs me. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's just because I hate Blumhouse. I hate how Blumhouse, it's like almost like they're ashamed of horror and their goal is to just get to where they don't have to
Yeah.
make horror movies anymore.
You
Like
know,
that's how
you-
it feels.
Right.
You took the words out of my mouth, but I was gonna say, well, I hate to tell you this, man, but that's Blumhouse for you.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
like they have something hits, and now they're like, let's squeeze.
Yep.
It's like, it
Because like on the
sucks,
other
but-
hand, you have A24 who is like, yeah, we're gonna start making more action movies, comedy movies. Like we're gonna branch out, but yet we're still gonna make some weird ass horror movies that no one except for the diehards are gonna go see. And like that's what's up, dude. That's what you should be doing. Like I'm not against making money, dude. Blumhouse make money, dude. You don't have to do just horror, but like
right.
don't just
Don't
try-
abandon it.
yeah, it's all about money. Like everything feels like it's just all about the money with everything they're doing. Like even did you guys hear about the whole Insidious disaster with the live
The stage play.
So, yeah,
the stage
it's like
play.
everything they're doing. Like that literally was the most like half-assed thing I'd ever heard of. Like when I heard some of the different interviews and stuff and what they were doing, I'm like, it's just such a money grab. Like that's just it's awful. Like, why are you gonna put your name on this?
Who the hell
Anyway,
knows?
so what are we
No,
at?
I agree. We are at Dylan at number 3.
Dylan at number 3, man. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
This is why you should have just stuck with a list. Stop changing your list.
No. I don't know. Now, see, like this was the thing. It's been because you guys have mentioned stuff, so like stuff's flipped a little bit down below, I think once. But this is where this top 3 is kind of rough for me. I know my definitive number 1, but these two, it's again kind of a Sophie's choice. Number 3, though, I'm gonna go with 30 Days of Night. This is one of my all-time favorite vampire films because the vampires in this movie are actually fucking scary. And I love that. We never see, especially at this era, because this is like peak Twilight era, we didn't see scary fucking vampires anymore. We didn't see modern scary vampires, and this is like the first thing in my mind that actually delivered on that. I love this movie when I first saw it, but I watched it we rented it from Netflix middle of the day on like a Saturday afternoon in the daylight. I was a few years later, mind you, I'm about to be like a freshman in high school coming up on that. So like I got to stop being afraid of the dark. Right. But I am camping in Minnesota with my cousins and my grandparents one summer at a portable DVD player. I'm watching that movie in the middle of a tent, freezing my fucking ass off because it's Minnesota and it's nighttime. We're open in a big open field in a tent. And bro, I'm starting to hear noises. I was freaking out because they were already had signs and postings about like bears in the area and stuff. So I'm watching these horrific vampire murders with all these noises and shit. And I should be loving it, but everything around me, I had my first panic attack watching this movie. I had to get up out of the tent.
Yeah, no shit.
Run into the RV, and then just fucking like I had to be like calm down for real. Like genuinely one of the only times I remember in my life actually being afraid because I was like, there's something outside this fucking tent right now.
Right.
And this movie is not helping, and it was awful. It was terrible. But I adore this film nonetheless.
Hell yeah. What about you, Luke? You're number 3.
My number 3, Dylan mentioned it. It is The Lost Boys. My gosh, this one, I remember David being probably the coolest villain as a kid. I'd go over to my aunt's house. There were 2 VHSs that I would watch. It was one or the other. It was Lost Boys or Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And I was just like obsessed with the character David. It was like the first time as a kid, you always like the heroes in all the films. And it's like David was the character it just hit with me, where I was a pirate for Halloween one year, and it came with the costume came with like a clip-on earring that was like a skeleton, and I remember putting that in. I could not convince my parents to get me a black duster, but I would put that in when I would watch Lost Boys because it was just such a good time. I love the cast of the villains there. Alex Winter. Oh my gosh, come on. Even though he plays a small part, but it's like, him from Bill and Ted. And then the Frog Brothers for me, you can't beat that. The 2 Corey Feldman in there was like, okay, this just hits. It's like, it is the epitome of the 80s for me. Like looking back at that, it's like, if you want to show someone what the 80s were like, you just show them Lost Boys. And I just love the story there. It's nothing like out of the box, but the characters play so well. And it's such a great story that for me, it's timeless.
And I completely agree. So much so that we're up to me on number 2, and it's The Lost Boys. Like I said, this was this movie. As much as I loved all the characters in this movie, and it was cool. Like you said, Bill from Bill and Ted was in. I'm seeing Alex Winter, and the 2 Coreys. People that we loved as kids. But this movie made me fucking terrified to eat Chinese food. Like. I grew up in the middle of the country, in nowhere, Michigan. There was no Chinese restaurants around us anywhere. That was the most foreign fucking thing to me as a kid. The idea of eating Chinese food.
It's
dude, like I was genuinely like terrified to eat Chinese food, man. I was like, no way, this is fucking scary. And God, this movie is just so good. Like the bridge scene, like that's a scene that just I love so much. Or when they kill Alex Winter, you know, like that's just an amazing scene. And I do love the Frog Brothers. This is a movie that I could talk about
When they're getting the
so
holy
much.
water is
Yes,
fantastic.
yes. Before Dylan, we move on to you real quick. Thank you for being a member for 2 years now, Troy. Holy shit, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Recommending Night Watch 2004 Russian film. So fun and inventive, kind of has that Blade/Matrix techno aesthetic, has a direct sequel as well. So Night Watch 2004. All right, cool. Dylan, you want to give us your number 2?
Did watch some
My number 2. So yeah, this is one, again, even as I sit here and I think about it, I'm like, should I have swapped it? I don't know. But I'm going with my heart of hearts here just because I think that this is one that I don't think people mention a lot. I've only seen it twice, but I have good fun with it. And I think like as just far as like independent vampire movies that I really wanted to spotlight, I'm actually going to go with Stakeland from 2010.
Damn it, that's
2.
one that everybody bugs me to see. I need to watch that movie.
Steak,
That's
like
really
it's
well
literally,
done.
yeah, Stakeland, like driving a
Mhm.
steak into you. Everybody talks about it, and I don't know why I have yet to see it. Like I even had looked at it on my queue today. I almost watched it earlier, but I'm like, oh, I don't have time. It's so weird. It's one of those
And-
like a lot of people love though. It's got a
yeah.
really cool like
It's
a
got
cult following.
yeah, Nick D'Amici is the star of this. If you've seen Late Phases, it's the main guy from that. And
It has
you know,
a
I think
sequel as well, right?
yes, it does. I've never seen the sequel, admittedly. But you got a lot of really great character actors like Danielle Harris is in this. Larry Fazden shows up. But it's just this really awesome, very gutsy kind of broad concept for a very low budget vampire film, and they actually pull it off pretty convincingly. And I
Is it
like it a
found
lot.
footage?
No, it's not found footage. It's
Okay.
it's like a harder version of like Zombieland with vampires, which is
Nice.
kind of how they were
Very
pitching
cool.
it. But it's
Yeah.
not nearly. It's not like a comedy. It's you know, it's got funny moments. It's
just
got
kinda
great
that
characters.
world in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a road movie. You know, they're going through the
Nice.
world. You see a lot of the world with vampires and stuff. It's another one that just sets up stuff real nice. I like it. And Luke, have you seen that one?
I have not.
Okay, gotcha. And I forgot to mention this for my 30 Days of Night thing. I got to put this out there just because I know nobody else has the guts to say it or admit it, I think. But I'm going to go with an honorable mention here of Twilight Eclipse. I like that one. Same director as 30 Days a Night. It's the darkest of all of
Really?
them, and I actually think yes,
Is
it's
that the
darkest.
last one?
No, it's the third one.
Or yeah,
It's the
and
one
like
right
Breaking
before-
Dawn, I think, is the last
Yeah,
one.
the-
Or something.
Breaking Dawn did the Harry Potter thing where they broke it up into 2, but I think that Eclipse is definitely the most entertaining of it. But also,
I've never seen any of them other than like little.
yeah,
clips or
my
whatever.
my wife and I have like a tradition every couple years we sit down and we watch all of those, just over like the span of a week or two, and just every few years we grew up on them, so we just get an interest to watch
Sure.
them, and then we've started to do this thing where we tack on the Batman at the end of it, so she has to watch that because I love that movie, and I'm like, look what Robert Pattinson's doing now.
That's like me and Rocky. Like every couple years, I have to rewatch all the Rocky movies.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was always a huge fan of the Rocky movies as well. And I'm in the minority that number 2 is actually my favorite.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
I think Rocky 2 is probably the better movie.
Yeah.
But there's something really cool about the first one too, because it is so like gritty and like less polished and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like it would be impossible for me to ever say I have a favorite when it comes to the Rockies, because to me they're all part of it's all Rocky.
Sure.
big
what I mean? Like-
story.
Sure.
Like even 5 that everybody hates, like to me, I still enjoy it because it's part of the whole mass, like the good, the bad, the ugly. You know,
Oh,
I
Tiny
can
Gun.
at least also throw the very first Creed movie up there. Like Creed 2 is fine. I like Creed 2. 3's okay.
I haven't even
but
seen
like
3, but the first
yeah,
one's awesome. I
the
love
first
one.
Creed
I
is such
agree.
a great return to form. It's like
well, and Stallone's still in it too, so it's like to me, it's still attached to the
Mhm.
Rocky universe.
Yeah,
I don't
and
feel like they
2's
are anymore, but you know,
yeah, 2's not bad because like he's still in it and he's still a big significant role. And I like
wish
that
they
they
had
bring
at
back
least-
the. Oh, I
I
was
wish
just
they
gonna
had
say.
at least involved Stallone in some small way so that they would all be connected to the Rocky
Yeah.
franchise. Like I hate that they completely cut him out in the third one. It
Yeah, the
makes
third
no
one.
sense, you know?
It's the only reason I don't really go back and rewatch that one as much.
Why
is
I haven't
because
seen it.
It's just
Like,
like
The
it's
third
good.
one made me
It's
cry like a
fine
fucking
movie.
baby.
The which
I've
one?
heard
The
it's
first
good.
one?
The
No,
third
the third
one.
one.
Oh, the
I've heard
third
it's good.
Creed.
I've heard.
Yeah,
it's
I
good.
mean,
It's
like
just,
it's not a
I
like.
don't
Here's
like
what
what
I'm
they did
saying.
to Stallone. Like,
Here's what I'm
Stallone
saying. It's
created
not
this
a.
universe.
It's not a bad movie. Out of the three, it's my least favorite. But you know, it's like the first one is such a like high bar in my opinion because it's like there's no
Yeah.
reason why that movie should have been as good as it is. But you had a great team, a great
Mhm.
writer, everything behind it. Who was just like he came up with that idea and he pitched it to Stallone. He said, "I want to do this," and they finally got it done, and it's excellent. But yeah, I mean, like 3 is not bad. It is just it does feel weird that like we don't talk about Rocky, we don't mention it. He's basically my surrogate father, mentor, uncle, you know, now. And in 3, he's just not there at all. They don't even mention him. It's just like
Yep.
you can't get over it. You can't lose that little weirdness of it because there's moments where he's like going through it and you're like, why aren't you going to talk to Rock? Like, what's up with this? And he's just not there. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
It
Right.
literally makes no sense. Like I know what it is. It's about money, but they
Mm-hmm.
literally ripped the franchise away from him. It's the only one that Stallone didn't get a producer credit, which means he gets some of the money, like some of the profits from it. It's the only one, and that's why they did it. There's literally no other reason why
Right.
you would do it. But it's messed up. Like it doesn't exist if there is no Stallone. Like Stallone, you know what I mean? And like, it just bothers me because like inside of Sylvester Stallone is Rocky.
Rocky.
Like there's
Yeah, I agree.
literally, you know, that's why he writes the character, plays that character so well, is because that guy is really inside of him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's more than just like playing a role for him, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, where are we
Yeah,
at?
Luke, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Fright Night. In this one, I mean, I grew up on this one. I love that tale of the next door neighbor being a vampire and, you know, him looking out the window and seeing the coffin and then trying to prove it to everyone. I mean, it's such a great like 80s concept that, you know, when you look back on it, it just is one of those films I think is in probably everyone's regular rotation of iconic 80s films that it gives you the warm and fuzzies when you throw it on, you know? So
Yep.
I still get it to
Especially
this
any
day.
kid that grew up in the 80s or 90s, like that movie, you know, it's
that-
like must
Jerry
watch.
Dandridge, I mean, a great villain. I mean, he's in the running for one of my favorite vampires of all time as well. And you know, I don't think a lot of people talk about that sequel, but I find some fun with it. So you know, I wish we'd have got an expansion on the universe, but what can you do?
Right. Kainan, what about you? What's your number 2?
My number 2, Dylan stole my thunder. It's 30 Days of Night. It is the only movie really that has ever gotten vampires right. Like they actually made them fucking scary. And like, I just don't get why we don't see more of that. Like, because especially the old lore, it's what I did like about Nosferatu is he made, you know, Robert Eggers made Nosferatu scary. He made a scary vampire again. Yeah. And it's like, that's the old legend. That's where vampires come from, is from those old stories. And they weren't sexy. They weren't pretty. They were awful monsters. And like 30 Days of Night gets that. And the desert almost landscape of it being so cold and nothing, and it just be night. And like, I've been to Alaska where in the summertime where it's daytime, it doesn't really ever get dark. And like, I can only imagine that when it's the opposite and it's winter and it's just always dark. It's like, it's just such a weird feeling of having like I said, I experienced the all day thing, but it's like, you know, 12 o'clock at night and it looks like it's 5-6 o'clock. You know, it's just it's such a weird thing. And like, I couldn't even imagine the claustrophobic feeling of 30 days of nighttime. Like,
no,
and then you put on top of that these monsters, and it's so tragic. Like all the characters, the way it ends, I don't want to ruin it because I know there's people who might be watching this and still haven't seen it, but it's like the Indian is just, you know, everything about it has this like even one of the earliest kills where the woman is dragged out of the kitchen, you know, and you know, right in front of her husband, and dragged under the house. Like, it's just everything
Savage
about the
as
way it's
fuck.
done. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
awful.
It's super savage. They don't even like hide themselves. They're just like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just coming at you.
When we were talking
out
about
in
like
broad, you know, right in the middle of the town. They're not trying to hide under shadows or anything.
when we're talking about like iconic vampires, like that's why I said Danny Houston's character, because I always think about that scene where
When the blood's dripping from his face.
there's that, but then the one where they're you trying to bait them out with that woman, and she's just like, oh please God, and he's like, he just looks her, he looks up, he's like, no God. Like, just like that's all he says to her before they kill her, because she's like praying, and he's just like, no.
And I love how
sorry.
they don't. I
It's
love
like-
how they can talk, but they don't really talk much.
Yeah, they don't have to. They just screech
Yeah.
and do their thing.
Yeah, but
They're beyond
exactly the screechiness, like everything about them, they're like, they're not humans. They're like their own species of these vampire creatures. Like, yeah,
I could talk about that movie.
Design,
forever,
the design of it is so cool. Like the look of it, the way blood looks on snow will forever just be amazing.
Yes.
Like, more horror movies need to use that because it just looks
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah. I do want to say, where is it at?
Yeah, Rocky
Batman
4
vs.
is dope.
Dracula.
I love Rocky
Yeah.
4.
I always search for a greased up saxophone player every time I visit Santa Cruz. Just call me, Big Rod. I got your back.
Oh my God, dude. When James A. Janice did that.
Oh
was
my
like
God, that
last
was
year.
awesome.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
Did
that
they
was
get to
great.
the numbers bit?
To the numbers? Yes, that was amazing. I hope you
good.
dug it, Brad. I hope you enjoyed it. What's up, Joe Bet? 30 Days a Night and Kodiak Bears make me all good. I'm going to Alaska. I do want to say before we get to number one, guys, if you didn't see
Kodiak
at the
Bears are
beginning,
mostly on Kodiak Island.
yeah, I'm just
They
scared.
have Grizzlies, though.
I do have Splattercast links down in the description, as well as Ghost Pirate Entertainment, Kainan's links. Please make sure you're following them on social media. Please make sure you're subscribing to their channels. If this is your first time here, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us all build our channels. But now let's get into our number one, and we're going to start with you, Dylan.
Okay. I already know I'm stealing a couple from some people, at least Luke. I know I'm stealing Luke's. It's got to be. So if you want to do like maybe both of us at the same time, we could just get this one over with. Because
if your guys is the same, for sure.
Oh, it's Near
Sure.
Dark. It's
Yep,
Near Dark. Near
100%.
Dark. Yep.
Okay.
Near Dark is like, and this is something that Luke. Actually, I'll give you the floor, sir. You'd introduce it because you were the one who showed it to me. So I was completely blind to it until he introduced me.
Yeah, this was one that it almost, I feel like it was almost like a secret password in the horror community, where it was like, you know, a lot of people
Still
talk about
kind of is, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
and where it's like it's opening the door up a little bit, but it was like, you know, Lost Boys was always kind of the go-to for a lot of people, and then it was like, oh, you like Lost Boys, but have you seen Near Dark? And that was something where it popped up on my radar ages ago. Dylan and I both worked at a used media store. That's where I had initially seen it. Someone had come in and tried to sell in the DVD, and you know, it'd kind of give you what we were going to offer and then the actual price that we were going to sell it for. And it was like the price of this thing was like, you know, it's like $80 or $90 at the time. And I was like, what is this thing? So I ended up doing my research, and it was something that
Was it on VHS?
it was a DVD at the time.
The DVD was that much?
Yes, because it was
The
out of print.
Blu-ray is super expensive right now too.
Yeah, and
Wow,
that's
I
where
didn't know that.
yeah, so yeah, they're hard to find, like the physical copies of them. And then so I went so long without ever being able to actually watch it because I could not find a copy of it. And then Dylan had worked in a different used media store than I did, so I was like, hey man, do you have Near Dark? And he had looked and he got it for a really good price for me using his discount. And then that's where I kind of explained to him the idea of what Near Dark was and all that stuff. And I think Dylan, you hadn't seen it. Was that a pandemic?
That was a
pick up for you?
pandemic pick. Yep. I was
Yeah.
using Luke's, well, we were using each other's, but I was going over there to record the podcast. So I was using his movie collection like a library during the pandemic because he was like in my little direct group of like 4 people I saw. And it was just like, yeah, I'm just going to go over. I'm going to take 5 movies, and Near Dark was one of them. Never look back after that. It's a Catherine Bigelow movie. That's the thing that always blows my mind, and I feel like people don't understand. And if you don't know who Catherine Bigelow is, you do, you're just not familiar with the name because she did Zero Dark 30, The Hurt Locker, Detroit, and also the one that I feel like everybody forgets that she did, Point Break. Yeah, 1991. One of the greatest action movies ever
There's
made.
a little bit of Point Break in Near Dark. You know what I mean?
Certainly
Like
the
a little bit
rebel
of that
stuff,
rebel, the
Mhm.
rebel element.
It's so
It's
good,
it's a
dude.
fucking Western, dude. It's a
Yeah.
I was
Western
gonna say it's a total
wrapped in vampire.
Western film. Yes.
I love the
Same
concept
with
of the RV.
with John Carpenter's Vampires. Same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like it's like a Western with the vampire. I probably should have Near Dark on my list. Like I just only discovered it like a year ago, I think.
Wow.
Like I had never heard of it, never seen it, and I was like, how have I never heard of this movie? As much horror as I've been around for, over 20 years, and yet I'd never even heard of this damn movie, and like just fell in love with it, of course, as soon as I saw it.
And
It's
in
a
the
masterpiece.
in the Blu-ray,
And I think
release,
once I've lived with it longer, it'll probably be even higher on
Right.
my list.
And
Like it's so good, dude.
and
Bill
the Blu-ray
Paxton, like you
release
said
of it-
earlier, is just amazing.
it's a take. They did a fun take on Twilight. So the front cover looks like a Twilight movie, just because they were like, screw it, because it's like this deep indie horror vampire flick, and they're like, let's screw with everyone and make it like a Twilight cover of it. That's why I was like, I had to double check when Dylan had gotten it for me, because I was like, is this the same film? And I was like, oh no, they're just screwing with audiences to make it look like Twilight. It was like, but it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so you guys know, a copy of this Near Dark Blu-ray, the only one you can get right now, going online right now for $132.
Is that
Damn.
still wrapped? Like brand new?
That is sealed. Yes, that's a brand new sealed. So that's that. But used, I got a used price here,
Probably 50.
64. So
Yeah.
at least that was the couple sellers who had it. So
I think I have it around somewhere on
Yeah,
DVD or Blu-ray or something.
it's one that I pray to the gods every day that they let like Shout Factory or Scream Factory or somebody.
I want it on
take a crack at
VHS.
it.
Oh,
Hell
gosh,
yeah.
that'd be perfect.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's
dude,
what I collect. I don't collect any other physical media because I'm just like,
we
there
just
isn't,
started
like-
collecting VHS.
it's like it's always just going to keep getting better when it comes to like DVDs or Blu-rays. Like you're always going to get better things, like, you know what I mean, as technology keeps getting better.
Luke's
So
been
to me, it's
collecting
like
it
the
for a little
opposite
bit.
direction where you get this analog version of it where it's like
Right.
not perfect, but there's something, so nostalgic, especially when you're talking about movies. Like there's been a lot of movies now like Terrifier where they made a VHS version of it. And like movies are starting to do that now, like a lot of newer stuff. And that's cool. But I mean, like there's something about getting an 80s or 90s movie. Like
I just
on
got They Live on
VHS.
VHS. I haven't put
Yep.
it in the VCR yet, but I'm so excited. to
Dude,
watch
that's
it.
a hard one to get.
Yeah, I know.
What was it?
They
They
Live.
They
Live.
Live. What did you
Oh,
pay
They
for
Live.
that?
Nice.
So I got to thank Dylan for this one. We have a local, like, it's called the Retro Attic, and it's like a bunch
Awesome
of,
shop.
yeah, it's like, used media, a bunch of old, 80s, 90s stuff. And Dylan was there, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and sent me a picture of a They Live VHS there. And I have a bunch of stuff that I had been, because we collect everything that I'd been wanting to sell in. So I went and sold in a bunch of stuff. The VHS itself was $60, but with trade credit and everything, I didn't pay anything for it. But
Yeah, because I've
that's
seen that on eBay for, I want to say like 200 and something.
yeah, they're
It's
hard to find.
It's in really nice condition from what I saw too. It's not all that
That's
beat
dope.
up, right? I
No,
didn't take it
it's
out.
in
So.
gorgeous
I don't
condition.
mind. I don't mind when it's beat up. Like I actually kind of like when
Yeah,
I
like
find them.
it's got the creases and
But
everything.
it's better to
got-
find them in the wild.
Yep.
Like I don't know.
Yep.
I can buy a lot of stuff on eBay, but it's just much more fun if I find them in a thrift
Yep.
store or a used
Yeah.
media store or whatever. But like the best is when you find it. One of the ones with the Blockbuster thing,
Yes.
like or one of the clams. What are they called? The
Yep.
The clamshell
those
thing.
are- yeah, clamshells.
Yeah,
It's
the only
super
thing
fun.
I had my eye on there was the right behind that they had My Bloody Valentine,
Yeah.
the
They had
original
the
on
sleep-
Oh,
they
VHS.
had-
man.
They had Sleepaway Camp and Sleepaway Camp 2 that were going for a hefty
Oh,
price.
nice.
Damn.
Mhm.
Where do you
Yeah.
guys live?
Akron, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, like middle of the country has got it made. You guys all got to
Yep.
like still
It's
have
all a bunch of
like we
just
don't.
random.
I'm out here in California, dude. Everything is like collectible. So no, you
Gets
can't.
scooped up.
We don't have used media stores really. Like we don't have places like that anymore because it just all gets
Right.
bought up. So there's nothing to resell like that because everybody thinks they're going to get rich off of like, you know, it's like we used to have like swap meets at thrift stores and it was fun going and hunting down old VHSs and stuff. You can't find any of that stuff anymore.
Not
It
to
really
extend
sucks.
this conversation any further, but something I did want to mention since we're talking about VHS is that actually in our little city of Akron, they just opened a little horror VHS museum called Killer
What?
That's
Video.
awesome.
Yep, it's called Killer Video.
That's dope.
We're going to be going to see it here soon.
Because that's like,
That's sick.
what is it called? Flashback or whatever. They do that down in Hollywood. It's like they have a little museum, same kind of thing.
Yep, he's got it set up where you can go in there. It's like it's got an old like
movie store.
booth, old movie store. You just walk in, he's got all kinds of VHS. They even
That's
have
so
it looks
cool.
like
all that.
it looks like from the pictures they have VHSs in bags in the gift shop. So I'm wondering if you can buy those if they have like certain rare ones because there were a couple of Nightmare on Elm Streets and stuff like that were just sitting in bags, and I was like, I wonder if they're selling those. So I'd hope
That's
they
super
I'd hope
cool.
so.
Yeah, that's
All right,
awesome.
so where are we at? We're at number one.
Yep, you're number
You and
one.
Ken.
That's my number one.
Mhm.
Yep.
Hold on. Dylan already gave his. They already gave their number one, right? That was
Yep,
Near
we
Dark?
did Near Dark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Drum roll, please. You guys have all stole my thunder a few times, but mine is Lost Boys. Like
Oh, yeah.
dude, to me, it is like Back to the Future is widely considered a perfect movie by people in film.
Mhm.
To me, if as far as horror type of movies go, like The Lost Boys is the Back to the Future of it.
Yeah.
It's like it just has everything. It's so balanced. It has a story. It has characters. The pacing is still great. It's one of those few movies from the 80s that you can rewatch right now with a modern eye and still be like, this movie's fucking amazing, dude.
It's
Like-
got
Yeah.
texture. It's got
It is
the
the
soup,
only
the
movie
sauce.
with it is the only movie where there's a character that I was like as a teenager, or I guess closer to kid than teenager, but I was like, I wish I could either be him or be a girl to be with him. Like he is that fucking cool. Like one of the few characters that is like that. Like all the vampires in this, every guy character is just the coolest. Like the way they dress still looks cool to this day, which is
Yep.
insane because 80s movies, none of them look cool when you look at them in a modern, like if you look at them today, you're like, yeah, they look cool then, but like, you know, nobody does that. But they all still could wear those exact same outfits, look exactly like they do then, walking down Hollywood Strip right now, and everybody be like, damn, they're fucking cool.
Yep.
Like it's just, it's such a good movie. And on
It's
top of
timeless.
all of that, it still has scary ass moments. And the atmosphere, like you guys were talking about the bridge, like when they jump off into the fog. I mean, so atmospheric. I saw it on the big screen for the first time, like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago. They played it at a theater here. And I also saw it at the drive-ins in 2020. And like, I had seen it all my life growing up as a kid, mostly watching it on VHSs and stuff. But I had never seen it in the theater, and I'm just like, damn, dude, it's even better, like in, you know, modern high definition on the big screen. I'm like, oh my God, dude, it's just such a good movie. Like I knew the story, I knew the movie, I'd seen it so many times, and yet I found myself just
Getting
engrossed.
sucked in. That's a great movie,
You know,
man.
yeah.
It's a sign of a
Yeah.
timeless film.
So good. So
It
good.
is. It was at my
Alright,
number
cool.
2, but number 1 for me, obviously I haven't talked about it. You saw Evil Ed in the intro, so you know that Fright Night means the world to me.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, Jerry Dandridge is probably my favorite vampire, and there's so many moments of this movie, like when you have them dancing, you know, in the mirror, you know, you have those moments where you see him and then you don't see his reflection. I love Peter Vincent in this movie. One of, I think, of the most underrated, funny moments of any movie is when Charlie Brewster's in the parking lot with Peter Vincent, and he's like, "You said you believed me," and he's at the trunk, and he's like, "I lied," and he shuts the trunk. Like, I love that shit. Mother says dinner's in the oven. Like, I love Evil Ed. There's just so much about this movie that I think it's timeless to me, and a lot of this is probably nostalgia talking. But even Evil Ed, like I was saying earlier,
I don't know, man. I think it still holds up.
Yeah,
I think that movie
like
still really holds
through.
up.
The character
Yeah,
It's
like-
not
dynamics
just
in it are great.
nostalgic. Like some of the movies, yeah, you could say nostalgic, but there's some like Lost Boys, Fright Night, like they're so well made, so good that they're timeless. Like I don't think it's just nostalgic. Like they literally are good movies.
Yeah, and that's Fright Night to me, man. Like that when he's giving himself to Jerry because I don't want to be alone anymore, and Jerry's like, I know you don't want to be alone anymore, Ed.
Yep.
I'm here for you. Like that whole moment, you're just like, God, like it's heartbreaking. And then when he dies and he's like reaching out for, he's went from the wolf like back to himself, and he's reaching out. And this, even Peter Vincent's crying in this moment. You're like, there's just
what a
so many
tragic character.
things.
And
Yeah,
it goes overlooked sometimes because of the comedy aspect of it. But when you like really sit down and think about it, it's like it is so sad.
it's a deep character, man. And even when you have like you have to have faith for this to work on me, Mr. Vincent. Those moments, dude, like so good. Like God, again, I've never been a huge proponent of vampire movies. This is not my subgenre. But man, Fright Night is a movie to me that is so special, and I think it always will be. So I do want to thank these three gentlemen for joining me tonight. And guys, please don't go anywhere. As always, I do have a couple more questions for you. Everybody else that was here in the chat, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. It really does mean a lot. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're here on a replay, please like, comment, subscribe to these guys as well. It really means a lot. They are amazing creators. So until next time, you guys, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks,
See you
guys.